York Giant fans. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the championship games yesterday. Spent the day with my friend and my brother watching the games. And, two really good games. The playoffs in general this year have just been absolutely terrific. I did not expect the outcome, especially in the first game. 49ers game, I thought could go either way. I thought it would be right around where it was, about a 3-point game. But the Bengals game, especially when the Chiefs were up 21-10, should have been up 28-10 or at least 24-10 before the half. Pat Mahomes kind of screwed that up on the 1-yard line. I thought that game was locked up, and I thought the Chiefs were going to win that game before the game started. Certainly thought they were going to win leading up into halftime. And, that was a Pat Mahomes choke job if I've ever seen one. You know, Pat Mahomes is terrific, the most talented quarterback in the league, but he folded under the pressure yesterday. Make no mistake about it. And Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl 2 years after they had the number 1 overall pick. So you look at that, and maybe that gives you hope as a Giants fan. If you could start to turn things around quickly and get this team going in the right direction, maybe it could end up being quicker than you think. But congratulations to the Bengals. Congratulations, obviously, to the Rams. I think it'll be a good Super Bowl. But thank you to everybody for being here. And obviously, big news came out today. Brian Daboll, the new head coach for the New York Giants, had his press conference. Took over some of the quotes that he had to say. What really struck me about the press conference, or what Brian Daboll said, he came across like super chill, super confident, comfortable with the New York media. It was kind of, even though he said a lot of the similar things to what Joe Judge said, the vibe was completely different. And I'm not knocking Joe Judge. Obviously, we were all super blown away by Joe Judge's opening press conference. It's why I thought a lot of New York Giants fans jumped on the Joe Judge bandwagon as quickly as they did. And hopefully myself and all you guys learn our lesson. Let's not jump on any bandwagons. Let's give these guys an opportunity. Let's not build them up so high to set them up for, unrealistic expectations. So we want these guys out of town in a year or two. Let's give these guys a real opportunity. And I think that's kind of what Daboll and Shane have both said in their opening press conferences. But he came across like it was completely off the cuff. Like with Joe Judge, his opening press conference to me felt like it was rehearsed like 20 times in a mirror. Like this one, it was basically like when I go on YouTube with you guys. It was just like, he's just like, yeah, I'm going to show up in my pickup truck. I'm going to walk to the front of the stage, and I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to go with what they asked me, and I'm going to give an honest opinion. And that's the vibe I got. Daboll definitely came across as a guy with a good sense of humor, a guy that I think is going to give us a lot of good quotes his time here with the Giants as the head coach, and a guy that's going to be fun to work with. I think that's the vibe that he gave. Seems like he's a player's guy, and he's going to build this team around the players on this football team. So good stuff. Good start for Daboll. Obviously, we got a long way to go. And also news came out on Patrick Graham. It seems as if the New York Giants are going to be sticking with Patrick Graham for another year. Graham, of course, was the defensive coordinator the last 2 years. He's worked with Daboll in the past. He worked with Daboll with the New England Patriots. So he's going to be back with the New York Giants. And Giants fans may be split on this. There's a lot of really good defensive coordinators out there. I fully recognize that. Fangio's a really good opportunity there for the Giants if you wanted to take this job. Obviously, you have Don Wink Martindale. Graham's familiar with the players, and I do think Graham's done a better job than some Giants fans give him credit for. I understand that a lot of people don't like the bend but don't break approach, but at the end of the day, the Giants don't have pass rushers. They don't have pass rushers. Not to mention he got no help from his offense this entire year. We've had the worst offense in all of football each of the last 2 years. So that does not help out your defense. So I'm happy that Graham's back, if in fact he is back. Now, he is interviewing for other head coaching opportunities. We'll see if he gets those jobs. But it sounds as if he doesn't, he will be back with the New York Giants for another year. So I'm completely for that move, and we'll see how he progresses with the Giants year 3 as the defensive coordinator. And Daboll starting to hire a staff. Like I said, when Daboll took the job, I'm not going to critique him. I'm not going to criticize him in terms of the guys that he picks to coach under him. I'm going to give the GM and a head coach a fair opportunity. I'm giving them 3 years to build this team the way that they see fit. I'll give my opinion on the way that I want the team to be built. I've told you guys I don't want to draft a quarterback. If they go out there and they draft a quarterback, listen, they came in here to do a job. Let them build the team the way that they want to. Do I think they'll draft a quarterback? No. But especially, the things that they've said since they've come in here, they seem to be intrigued by Daniel Jones to see what they could get out of him in year 4 of his career. But whatever they decide to do, I'm going to back them and hope that they make the right decision. And we'll see how it all works out. Octave says, Graham said like he'll be staying as defensive coordinator if the Vikings don't hire him. Yeah, I think Graham's going to stay. I don't think Graham's going to get a head coaching job if I had to guess. I mean, he's not coming off the most, I guess, attractive year, right? It's not like the New York Giants defense. We were ranked 21st in the league off a year, I think, in which we were ranked 10th. Again, not mainly his fault. We also had injuries to that defense, but to me, more than likely, he's not going to get a head coaching job. I think he applied, like you said, with the Vikings, or he's got an interview. To my knowledge, they're also interviewing Jim Harbaugh. So I'm going to tell you this right now. If the Vikings hire Jim Harbaugh, I'm picking them to win the North next year. The other thing that I wanted to talk about briefly, I saw a clip of Ryan Poles today. Ryan Poles, of course, was a GM candidate that the New York Giants brought in and was one of my 3 or 4 favorite candidates. He's 36 years old, young guy, former offensive lineman for Boston College. The vibe that he gave with the Chicago Bears as opposed to the vibe that Joe Schoen gave were polar opposites. Joe Schoen came in and basically said, we're going to build this team accordingly. It's going to take some time, basically telling you you're going to have patience as a fan base, which I think is the proper approach. I don't think you're going to snap your fingers and this team's going to be great overnight. Ryan Poles today, I saw the clips from his press conference, came out and said point blank, we are going to own the NFC North. So just completely opposite approach by both GM candidates. I tend to agree with Shane. I think you need to temper expectations, particularly the first couple of years, because it's going to take some time to flip this roster. But it was just interesting to see the 2 different takes from the GMs. But Octave, man, thanks so much for being here, buddy. No Mets, no Jets, no Mets says, thanks, Chris, for the consistent content. No, thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys are having a great day. And I figured I'd go live anytime where there's something worth talking about. And I know a lot of you guys are going to want to talk about the new head coach and Patrick Graham staying on, so on and so forth. I'm going to try to give you guys off-season content. I know you enjoy the live streams. You like to communicate with me and people from within the chat. So I figured I'd go live today. A lot of people I was in the Giants live stream today on the YouTube channel while Daboll was talking. A lot of you guys are like, Chris, you got to go live. You got to go live. I'm like, all right, I'll go live. I was going to make a video, but I'll go live. I'll talk to you guys for a bit. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the games yesterday. And thank you guys for being here. True Atlas says, remember, smash mouth and relentless football for 60 minutes. I'm glad he didn't make promises. Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying about Poles. Neither one of them made promises. They said they're going to start to build this team accordingly, and it's going to be a process. And I think that's the right approach. It also gives me a lot more, I guess, like confidence that they're going to try to do this the right way this time around. You know what I'm saying? Like when Gettleman took the job, that wasn't the vibe that we got. We were trying to do 2 things at once. I don't think the Giants are doing that. I think they're going to slowly integrate bringing in their players and getting rid of the players that they don't want. And it's going to be a 2-3 year process. But as long as they have a direction, they have a plan, I think most Giant fans will get on board with it. Let's see. Anthony Raza says, Shane cutting more than $12 million off the cap easy. Oh, he's going to cut more than that. He's going to cut more than that. I mean, I've talked about it, but I mean, just Rudolph and Dixon alone is $8 million. And then you could potentially cut another 12 if you cut Bradbury. You could cut 9 off if you cut Martinez. And there's several other guys you could cut. Zimenez saves you $1 million, $2 million if you cut what's his name? Devontae Booker. And Sterling Shepard will save you $4 million or $4.5 million. They're going to have options. They're going to have to. They're going to have to at least restructure some of these contracts to get under the budget. As you know, the New York Giants don't have much cap next year. JL, what's going on, man? What's up with the lack of stream mods? The N-word was nonstop. Oh, and the Giants live stream? Listen, guys, you're going to get that everywhere, especially on the internet. And it's happened in my live stream before, and it may happen today. I don't know what happened in a more recent one. I learned on YouTube real fast because it affected me when I first started. People used to do that, and they used to get a kick out of the way that I reacted. I remember I did a call-in show, and people kept calling in and saying that word, and obviously I was fuming. I was pissed off. I don't want that on my channel. I don't want that on any platform, that kind of hate. But I think you have to, I've learned, at least as a content creator, they want you to react. They get joy out of seeing people react to them saying ignorant things or having those ignorant names. The best thing that you could do, don't give them attention. That's what they want. And it was a disgrace to that Giants chat today, but that's not on the Giants, right? They're just broadcasting the telecast and they have a live chat, whatever. But just don't react, man. That's the best advice I could give you because that's what they want, man. They want people to react. Irish Giants fan, what's going on, man? Love the press conference. Future's exciting. Yeah, I mean, Irish Giants fan, I'm not gonna get super over the top excited. I'm gonna try to learn my lesson from the last time around. But it is fun. It is exciting to be starting a new regime, starting fresh, and hope that they're starting to build this team the right way. So I can't help but be as excited as a fan to see the future direction of this football team. But I'm going to learn from my past mistake in terms of Joe Judge and propping him up as much as I did and not acting so much as a fan and waiting for results. But I'm going to give these guys a fair opportunity. I'm going to give them 3 years, like I said from the start, when they hired Shane and Daboll, and I'm excited to see what they can bring to this football team, man. Hopefully get this offense going in the right direction. John, what's going on, man? Hey, Chris, thoughts on keeping Joe Shane, saying he wants to clear up $40 million in cap space. Who do you see getting cut and traded? All right, let me, it seems like you guys are asking me this a lot. Let me pull up the salary cap real quick, and I'll give you my exact cuts to how he could come up with $40 million. I'll pull it up real quick for you guys. Right now, the New York Giants, by the way, I'm looking at the salary cap chart. We rank 28th in cap space according to Spot Track at negative $10 million. And this constantly adjusts because a couple weeks ago it said we had $4 million. It does have Nate Solder now under contract. We're going to clearly cut him. But let me share this real quick on the screen for you guys. Seems like a lot of you guys are asking me this question. Let's see. So here you go. Here's the screen. Here's the contracts next year. Leonard, the guys at the top you can't cut. Well, Williams you can't cut. You could cut Bradbury. Like I always do, I'll start with the obvious cuts. We'll go down. And if he's going to save $40 million, I mean, he could cut Caden Smith. I would hate to see that. He carries no dead cap, and it's $2.5 million. Just looking at that. Depends on how they feel about him as a player. Zimenez is a clear cut to me. It saves you $1 million. He's got no ties. Hasn't done anything for this football team the last 2 years in terms of the smaller contracts. There's guys at the back end that could save you $1 million here, $1 million there. After that, if you go up, you got Nick Gates. Nick Gates could save you 2.2 if you don't feel like he's healthy and going to be the same player. Maybe you bring him back on a cheaper contract. I've talked about that before. Riley Dixon would save you 2.8. He's gone. Get him the hell out of here. Devontae Booker saves you 2.1. So just between those two players, you're saving about 5. And, let's say it's about 10 with some like cheaper, cuts. Guys like O'Shane Zimenez, so on and so forth at this point. Nate Solder's going to save you 4, I believe. That's 14. And then after that, I mean, some of the high-profile guys, Rudolph's going to save you 5 if you cut him. He's 7.42, 2.4 if you cut him. That's another 5 that you save there. And then Sterling Shepard's probably gone. That's 4.6. Now you're talking upwards of 20, 22. And then you got the bigger contracts like Blake Martinez. Blake Martinez is going to save you 8.5, and potentially Bradbury, who he has no ties to, saves you over $12 million. Of course, they could restructure some of these salaries, but if they were to cut all the guys I just said, that would give you right around $40 million. They could restructure some, though. They could definitely extend some guys and work out the contracts accordingly. Abe, what's going on, man? I think sticking with DJ guarantees, let me get rid of this real quick. I think sticking with DJ guarantees BD 3 years if DJ doesn't work out. Brian Daboll. He could say he wasn't. Exactly, Abe. And I said that on Twitter yesterday. A bunch of people have said that. And it makes complete sense. And you're going to have fans that want Daniel Jones gone no matter what. But, I mean, think about it logically. Like, don't think about it as a fan that's watched this team for the last whatever amount of years. If as a GM and a head coach coming in, if you want to build your team the right way and have the fan base have patience, is it smarter to come in here with as bad of a situation the Giants do and draft that quarterback and put your job on the line day one, or start building up this team and basically get a free year pressure-free? All the pressure is going to be on Jones. Nobody's going to go into next season with expectations. If you're Shane and you're Daboll, it's a no-lose situation if you keep Daniel Jones. If you keep Daniel Jones, and I'm not saying don't upgrade the backup quarterback. You should absolutely upgrade the backup quarterback. But if you keep Daniel Jones next year, if he succeeds, Brian Daboll looks like a genius. If he fails, Brian Daboll says, well, John, he wasn't my guy. I didn't draft this guy. I need an upgrade at the position. So to me, it guarantees they get 3 years because, well, I shouldn't say guarantee, but it definitely increases the probability that they get 3 years if they stick with Jones. Because the following year, if Jones fails, you go out there, you draft your quarterback. And then the first year he's a rookie. The second year, you hope to see progress. So I think it's the right approach. I think it's the approach that they will take. And that's what I've expected all along. I think that's what they'll do. I think it's the smart decision. Brendan Man, he says, Solder, Shep, Rudolph, Dixon, there's so many we cut. Yeah, like I just said, I named a number of those guys. Bradbury's a possibility as well. And as we start to get those cuts, it'll give us a better idea in terms of what we're going to do in the draft and everything else. But, yeah, I mean, as a fan, you have to realize going into this offseason that anybody could be cut. Anybody could be traded. None of them have ties to the GM or the head coach. No matter what they say, anything's a possibility. And at this point, I probably expect Bradbury to be cut, to be honest with you, if they can't work out an extension. Let's see what we got. Giant says, I want us to keep Peppers. I love him. We're not keeping Peppers. I won't say never, but again, no ties. Peppers is a free agent. The New York Giants have no cap space to begin with. We have a young safety in Xavier McKinney. Unless Peppers is willing to come back on a really cheap deal, why would we sign Peppers? I just don't see it. Giants are going to look to get younger. They're going to look to bring in their guys. Don't expect to see Jabril Peppers back here with the New York Giants. Don't expect any of our free agents to be back, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe Carter's back. I've talked about that in the past. I don't think Evan Ingram's going to be back. I think that'd be a mistake. I don't think Will Hernandez is going to be back. I think they're going to start to build this team up from the ground up, especially on that offensive line. I think they'll be really aggressive in the draft with that, but I don't think Peppers is going to be back. I'd be shocked if he was. DJ Smooth with the with the Brian Daboll picture. He's already on board. He says, Raiders hire McDaniel's, thoughts, and hopefully our offense top 10 to 20. I want to score more points next year. I mean, Josh McDaniels, to me, obviously he's done a really good job with New England. He's known to be a really good offensive mind. And maybe he's learned from his mistakes. He's had a long time now, right? He was the Broncos head coach and GM. He had full power, 8 years ago, whatever it was when he got that job, and he failed miserably. And then he went back to New England with his tails between his legs, and he got the Colts job, and then he backed out at the last minute, which is the only reason why Frank Reich got the job. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously, he's been a really good offensive coordinator in the past. He failed miserably as a head coach. We'll see. He does have a pretty good team there with the Raiders, and it'll be interesting to see. But I didn't want him. Let's put it that way. I didn't want Josh McDaniels, especially after what he did with the Colts. Will, what's going on, man? Hey, my friend, I'm honestly really excited about these hires. Who do you think will be cut and who will stay? Will, man, first off, man, always like talking to you. Got to meet you at the Giants game, and I know I think you're from the Buffalo area, and you said you had a lot of fans that are Bills fans, so you would probably be ultra excited about these hires, being that we're now the New York Bills, especially if we get Ken Dorsey. And I'm assuming you mean the players when you asked that, not the coaching staff. I did see a picture that they were talking to Jerome Henderson at dinner. I did see that. I think Bobby from Talk to Giants posted that on Instagram or Twitter. So maybe Henderson will stay on as the DB's coach as well. It sounds like Patrick Graham's going to stay on. In terms of the players, man, I think all the guys that are free agents are going to be gone this year. I think they're all gone. And I've talked about it in the past why I think it's the best decision. I don't think they're thinking about next year in terms of competing. Of course, they're thinking about next year in terms of starting to build what they want to build long term, but they're not thinking about winning a Super Bowl next year. They're trying to take slow and steady steps. Next year, it makes complete sense not to sign anybody. Obviously, you're going to have to sign players to fill out your roster, but not to spend a lot of money in free agency. We don't have much money to begin with. If you let those players go, you're going to get comp picks for them, as long as you don't offset the contracts, because the way a comp pick works is if Ingram signs a $10 million deal, we'll say, and then you go out and sign a guy for $11 million, it negates the comp pick. So I think the smart approach for the Giants is to accumulate draft picks. Let these guys go. Don't try to, build a team in 1 year. Start to build the core pieces for your team long-term in the draft and go forward like that. So I think that's what they're going to do. Long-term, who's going to be cut? I mean, I don't think Barkley's going to be here long-term. I've talked about that several times. He's not, the new GM didn't draft him second overall. No ties to Gettleman. Daniel Jones, I suppose, is still up in the air. He would need to take a monumental leap. It sounds like these coaches, the coach and the GM coming in like him. And we'll see. I mean, I still think more than likely he will not be here long-term. But if he takes a huge leap, maybe that changes. But right now, I would say probably not. I think the only guys that are cemented as long-term pieces right now on this team, when I say long-term, I'm talking more than a year or two, are Andrew Thomas and Xavier McKinney. Kadarius Toney could be, but the guy's had injuries. We'll have to see if he can stay on the field healthy. There's definitely guys that could be, but if you ask me today, who's the two guys for sure that I think will be here for at least the next 5-6 years today, it would probably be Thomas and McKinney. And I would even say McKinney's not a lock. Thomas, I think, it is a lock because he plays a core position. He's demonstrated he can play the left tackle position really well. I think that's a piece you have to lock in long term. But I don't think any of these other guys are guaranteed to be here long term for this football team. Some may be, and we're going to have to give the head coach and the GM an opportunity to evaluate the roster. But yeah, that's my answer to you, man. I expect an overhaul at a lot of positions, similar to when Dave Gettleman took this job. When Dave Gettleman came on as the New York Giants GM, he got rid of all the pieces that he didn't want here. I expect the same thing to happen here with Shane. Tiana, I really wanted Flores, but will support the regime anyways. Love this team. I would have supported. I'm just like you, Tiana. I personally wanted Daboll because I thought we needed an offensive head coach, and I've given my reasoning as to why. But I would have been completely fine with Flores. It wouldn't have been my first pick, but I would have supported him. I think a lot of Giants fans, because they were so adamant about getting an offensive head coach and and getting Brian Daboll seemingly because he was the only real candidate that the New York Giants were interested in terms of an offensive head coach, kind of discounted Flores a little bit. Now, Flores definitely had some red flags, but I thought he was a pretty credible candidate. I thought he could be a good head coach. I know that he had his issues in terms of the coaching staff, so on and so forth, that is at his prior destination. But the way I looked at it, Tiana, is if we hire Flores or if we hire a defensive coordinator, whoever it is, Flores was obviously the favorite. And he brings in a good offensive coordinator. Say, I don't know, name a guy. He brings in a good offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, whoever you thought was the best potential offensive coordinator that they could bring in. If the offense starts to improve, that guy's going to go out and he's going to get a job somewhere else. He's going to become a head coach. If you bring in a head coach that's offensively minded, you don't have to worry about that, right? Because Daboll's essentially going to be the play caller, or at least he's going to have a lot of say in terms of the offense. That's his strength. And the way that the New York Giants are currently built, you have a young quarterback. You need to start to get him stability. Like Joe Shane said, like Brian Daboll said, and if it's not going to be Daniel Jones, you want your new quarterback, 2023, if they move on from Jones, to start off in a good situation. You don't want to make the same mistakes we made with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones now has been through 3 head coaches in 4 years. He's been through 3 offensive coordinators in 4 years. That's why I thought Daboll was the right decision. If you hire Daboll, you don't have to worry about losing the guy that's essentially the play caller. He's going to be Daniel Jones and potentially the future quarterback's play caller for the start of their career, hopefully for the first 2, 3, hopefully the first 15 years of his career. But that's why I thought it was the right decision to go with Daboll. That's just my opinion on the matter. But thank you, Tiana. I appreciate it. Let's see what we got. V-Man says, New York football trifecta of boldness at head coach is complete. Yeah. I think you were the guy that posted that on Twitter, V-Man. Every head coach in the New York area, all 3 coaches, obviously McDermott and Saleh and now Daboll, are all bold. And there's not a lot of bold head coaches. I was actually talking about it with Bad Dog after our stream the other day because Bad Dog's bold, and he was talking about how some of the good head coaches are bold. There's not a lot of them. Andy Reid's bold. I think Bruce Arians bold. 3 of them are in the metropolitan area. So hopefully that rubs off. Hopefully the boldness gets this team going down the right path. And Grim, he says, Shane or Daboll didn't say anything that means they're committed to DJ beyond 2022. Makes sense to support him publicly if he's here in 2022. Yeah, and I don't think they are, nor should they be. They didn't draft the guy. And I think Daniel Jones, like I said earlier at the top of the stream, I think it's a no-lose situation for them. It provides them with a year of basically no pressure from the fan base because Daniel Jones is not their guy. If Daniel Jones struggles, fans are going to be like, okay, let them get their quarterback now, and let's see if they could build with him. If Daniel Jones looks great, even better. So I think it's the right decision because they have no pressure here for this first season. It's completely understandable why you'd stick with Jones this year. He's not much against the cap. It's known to be not the richest quarterback draft class, and you don't have the pieces to support said quarterback. You don't have any offensive linemen outside of Andrew Thomas. All your weapons are constantly hurt. I think this year to me is the right year to start building this football team for your potential future quarterback if Daniel Jones is not going to be the long-term answer. But there's no pressure on them this year, and I think it's the right decision if to go in the route that it looks like they're going to. Chicago Giants, man. Daboll seemed authentic and genuine. I believe that the Giants are headed in the right direction. I'm with you. And to me, and again, I don't want to get overly excited about a press conference because we all did with the Joe Judge press conference, right? And fool's gold, right? So I don't want to get overly excited, but like you said, he came across authentic and he came across comfortable. He had a great sense of humor. I love the joke that he said to the guy that had an accent like me, like it was a clear New York accent. He's like, what are you, from South Carolina? And he said a couple of other things that made me laugh. He kind of poked fun at Matt Lombardo, who's not my favorite beat reporter. Not trying to knock Matt if he ever watches the streams, but he made a joke at Matt Lombardo. He said he called him out for being late. It's like, you can't be late, something like that. So he just seemed like he was comfortable with the New York media, which is good because that's obviously a very important attribute for a head coach in this market. We know that the media is ruthless, and he seemed like he's going to be the type of guy that doesn't let much bother him. And he was kind of quick and to the point, which I also appreciated. Nothing was drawn out. He basically said what he wanted to say, and it's on to the next. And he also showed a lot of respect for all the reporters. You notice that he mentioned them all by name, and, he said thank you for all the questions, so on and so forth. So I thought he presented himself fairly well in the opening press conference, and it came across really authentic, like you said. Peter, what's going on, man? Modern NFL is all about the quarterback. Rush the passer, protect the passer. Are they still created equal? with rules that only favor the offense, I say no. O-line is worth more than the pass rush now. Draft 2 O-linemen. I think they're both really important. I just think, you look what Cincinnati did. Cincinnati built almost exclusively on the offensive end, not necessarily the offensive line, even though they did draft an offensive lineman in the first round the year before Joe Burrow got there, and he got hurt his first year, and then he came back. But they built around the quarterback. And I think when you have a young quarterback, that's where your focus should be, giving him as much help as you possibly can, and then building the other areas of your roster. But make no mistake about it, pass rushers are still really important in this league. I mean, look at the 49ers, look at the Rams. Both those teams were getting constant pressure that entire game with their front four without having the blitz. It's very important, something the New York Giants haven't had here for a long time. So I think both are really important. You have to be able to disrupt the passer just as much as protect your own. So I think they're both really important. But for a young quarterback, yeah, I think that's what you need to be focused on first when you're bringing in a young quarterback. You need to make sure that you can protect the guy and have the weapons in place to and the scheme in place to be able to get the most out of the position. So I agree with you that the offense is it's definitely trending towards more of an offensive league, no doubt about it. But you still need to be able to get after the quarterback. Let's see what we got. AZ Bills fan, what's going on, man? Strong feeling this is the start of the McDermott coaching tree. Let's go, Buffalo, and good luck, G-Man. I'm excited to see your guys' future. I appreciate that, AZ Bills fan. I noticed on my video of Daboll, a lot of you guys came over and watched it, and I appreciate that. And you guys seem to have a lot of support for Daboll, and you wish the New York Giants fans the best. And obviously, you did a really good job over there for you guys. So we appreciate the support. I got nothing against the Bills. As a matter of fact, I'm in love with your quarterback. I say it all the time. I've said it long before he started to take off. I think Josh Allen's terrific. A lot of maybe some Bills fans are worried that because we took Daboll and Shane that maybe that's going to hinder his progression as a quarterback. I would not worry about it. I would not worry about it. I think Josh Allen's a terrific quarterback, and I think whoever they bring in there, he'll be just fine. The other thing that really stood out with Daboll as well, and we already knew this going into the press conference if you did any research on the guy, this guy is going to work with his players. There's no doubt about it. He even said, and I'll pull up some of the quotes as we go throughout, but he even said when asked about what type of scheme they're going to run, he said he's going to fit the scheme around the players that they have in place. So he did that with the Bills. I expect him to do that here with the New York Giants. So don't expect him to be a guy that's like married to one offensive strategy. He's going to build it around the talents of the players on the team. Lou, what's going on, man? Slap some shades on Daboll, and he's Alan from Hangover 2. Yeah, he just needs like a fanny pack, right? Didn't he like wear a fanny pack? That's not bad, though. I can see that a little bit for sure. Allen rather had hair, though. He wasn't bald, but he had the beard going. He was kind of short, little chunky. So I can see the comparison, Lou. What's going on, man? And Patrick says, sounds like Patrick Graham is staying at defensive coordinator. Fans were frustrated with him and seemingly changed opinions as the season went. What do you think we did on the field to change opinions? I mean, Patrick, I understand the frustration, but I don't think Patrick Graham did nearly as bad of a job as some Giants fans make it out to be. I said that throughout the year pretty consistently. The first 3 games, I was definitely discouraged, and I called him out for it. First 3 games, the defense was not on par with what I thought it could be. But at the end of the day, I thought he made some good adjustments. I thought he called a really good game against the Chiefs, and I know the bend but don't break approach is mind-numbing to some fans, but at the end of the day, if you don't have the horses, if you don't have the guys that can get after the quarterback, you can't constantly blitz because you'll get shredded. So I think the New York Giants need to get a premier edge rusher in here. And the fact that the Giants offense was as bad as it was, that makes that job that much more challenging, right? When you can't sustain drives, when you're constantly putting pressure on your defense. Now, the one thing that really stands out to me about this year's defense, granted we had some injuries that I did not like with Patrick Graham, the way they closed out halves was pathetic. The New York Giants, I think, got outscored like 75-0 at the end of the first half this year. But I don't think Graham was as bad as some Giants fans make him out to be. I don't think he had much to work with. Would I think that Fangio would probably be an upgrade? Yeah. But we don't know if Fangio would even take the job. Do I think that Don Wink Martindale would probably be an upgrade? Probably, yeah. But we don't know that he would take the job. But I think Graham's a good coach, and he's worked with Daboll before. So I think it's understandable why I'd want to keep him here if he wants to keep the job. Also, reportedly, that Shane said that he was impressed with Patrick Graham in the interview. So yeah, I'm completely fine with Graham staying on board. I don't think he's a bad defensive coordinator. Rather, I think he's done a pretty good job with the Giants, given what he's provided with. Marshall Law, what's going on, man? We need to upgrade at the running back position in the later rounds of this draft and actually use them on offense instead of solely on special teams. Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think, I mean, you look at the 49ers, what they got out of Mitchell, right? Mitchell was a 6th-round pick. And I was watching the 49ers game yesterday with my friend. And even though he wasn't doing that well, he didn't get a lot of yards. The guy runs hard. And I'm with you, man. Bright will obviously not get the job done. And that was one thing under the Joe Judge era that he clearly overemphasized and put too much attention to his special teams, right? That Brightwell was drafted specifically just for that. I think the Giants definitely need to get a running back in this draft. I agree with you at some point. I'm not taking one in the 2nd round. I'm not taking one in the 3rd round. But in the later portions of this draft, I'd be completely open to take a running back for sure. We need a strong 2nd runner because I would cut Booker, by the way. I think Booker was decent for the Giants. But if you could save $2 million, I'd rather cut him and draft a running back in the 4th or 5th round. Derek, what's going on, man? Think we try to bring in Trubisky? Yes. I think it only makes sense. I think it makes perfect sense to bring in Mitch Trubisky. I've been asked this a couple of times in my most recent streams. But, yeah, I mean, he's got ties to Daboll. He played in Buffalo. Obviously, they saw something there to bring him. And he naturally seems like a perfect fit to back up Daniel Jones. They have a similar play style. So, yes. I mean, I don't know for sure if they will, but I think it would be pretty attractive for Trubisky as well. Because the way I look at it, if I'm Mitch Trubisky, even though the Giants don't have the best support system, and specifically with the offensive line, but if I'm Mitch Trubisky, if you're a guy like him, you're looking for an opportunity to win a job. And if Daniel Jones struggles, these guys have no attachments to Daniel Jones. So, and he's obviously familiar with what Daboll has. So if I'm Trubisky, I look at the Giants as an opportunity to potentially get on the field, whether it be the poor play by Jones or him potentially going down with an injury. So, yeah, I do think Trubisky will more than likely be a Giant next year if I had to guess. Brandon, what's going on, man? Daboll's a funny guy. Yeah, Daboll is definitely super relatable. That's what I took out of the press conference for sure. Really funny, straight and to the point, and just seemed like the type of guy you'd want to have a beer with. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to this team. Slickback, I like that Daboll said don't expect much in 2022. Build up the team, trade back to get extra picks, and get your quarterback at 23. That's fine with me. And I think that's the route they're going to take. I don't know if they're going to trade down. We'll see. But I think that's the route they're going to take. Unless Daniel Jones completely surprises us, I think that's the route they're going to take. They're going to start to build up the team. If there's a trade opportunity there, you look to do it if it makes sense. I would love that. You know, people have asked me, like, what's the ideal scenario for the 2022 draft for me? It's taking a lineman with one of our first 2 picks, the best tackle available. And if there's a trade, being able to get a future first-round pick in 2023, trade down to that 12 area, 13 area, whatever it may be, and double up on the line or maybe get a, linebacker or whatever. But if you could trade down and get a future first-round draft pick, I think that's a slam dunk because it opens up all your options for the 2023 draft. It gives you the opportunity to potentially trade up and get a quarterback. If Daniel Jones succeeds, it takes a monumental leap. You could fill out other holes on your roster. I think it's the right decision if there's a trade there. That's my dream scenario in the draft this year is to be picking like 5 and 12 and get a future first-round pick. NFL Expert says, I cannot I'm not saying DJ is good, but he hasn't gotten a chance. Yeah, I think most Giant fans would agree with that. He's definitely not been afforded the best opportunity. That's fair to say, I think. The question is, if he does get a better opportunity this year, I'm taking the kid gloves off with Daniel Jones this year if he's back as the New York Giants quarterback. It may not be fair at the end of the day, but if he is not, I don't care that you're learning a third scheme in 4 years anymore. I don't care that you have 3 coaches now in 4 years. I'm completely for, and I've supported bringing Jones back for a 4th year. But if he does not finish the year, at least in my eyes, as a top 8 to 10 quarterback, you can't extend him. Can't do it. That's silly. You can't do it. That's how you put yourself in quarterback hell. You look at all these teams, even teams that are successful in winning are looking to upgrade their quarterback position when they feel they don't have a top 8 to 10 quarterback. Look what the Kansas City Chiefs did. They had Alex Smith. Alex Smith was a borderline Pro Bowl quarterback who was winning tons of games there, but the Chiefs saw that they couldn't win Super Bowls with Alex Smith at the quarterback position. You could say the same thing about, obviously, the San Francisco 49ers. They went to a Super Bowl with Garoppolo. Garoppolo this year got them to the NFC title game. That didn't stop them from trading up and getting Trey Lance. And you could say there was another team I was thinking about as I was saying it. You could say it about another team. So at the end of the day, the Rams with Jared Goff, they went to a Super Bowl. They said they needed an upgrade. They traded for Matt Stafford. At the end of the day, if Daniel Jones doesn't take a huge leap next year, you can't extend that guy. You have to go out and you have to restart the rookie cycle and continue to build your football team accordingly. I hope he does. I hope he becomes a top 10, top 8 quarterback next year. But got to see it. Got to see it. Zeke, what's going on, man? He says, I'm okay with Daboll and hopefully Dorsey. I hope and pray Graham gets a head coaching job. Don't want the soft zone bend, but don't break anymore. Yeah, I think that's like the biggest criticism by Giants fans as far as with Patrick Graham. I think that's the biggest criticism with Giants fans. They don't like the bend, but don't break. But I think there's variables to that personally. I don't think he wants to be bend, but don't break. I think he has to be because he doesn't have the guys that can get after the quarterback. And I think we saw that week 1 when we blitzed like lunatics against Teddy Bridgewater and the Denver Broncos. We got picked apart the entire game. If we had a guy like Bosa, if we had a guy like name a top tier edge rusher, a Watt, I don't think he'd be as conservative as he is. I think he knows that fits the best interest of this football team due to the fact that we're limited in terms of being able to get after the quarterback. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. I don't think he wants to be as conservative as he is. I think he's conservative out of necessity. And he takes an approach of, I'm gonna play bend but don't break and try to create turnovers because that gives our defense the best opportunity to be successful because we can't get after the quarterback. That's just my opinion on the matter. Let's see. Daniel Saint says, do you think the Giants trade back on one of these draft picks? Thank you for all the content and live stream you do for Giants fans. Much appreciated. I appreciate it, Daniel. And thank you guys for supporting the channel, watching the channel, and supporting the New York Giants. I do. If there's a trade there, yeah. But I think we also have to realize that there may not be. There may not be a trade there, right? Because we talk about how poor the quarterback draft class is. Now, all it takes is one of these guys to blow people away at the combine. And I do think the Giants are sitting in a prime spot for a team to want to look to trade up to. Because, just throw a name out there. Say Matt Corral. Just a random name. Say Matt Corral has an incredible combine and whatever, Senior Bowl. I don't think he's in the Senior Bowl, but an incredible offseason, and he starts to move up draft charts. You look at the draft chart, right? You look at the order right now. The Carolina Panthers are picking 6. They could certainly take a quarterback. They're not married to Sam Darnold. So if you're a team like Denver or a team like Minnesota or whoever that could potentially need a quarterback in the near future, you may look at that and say, all right, I'm going to jump up to 5 and go and get my quarterback. So I don't think a team's trading up unless it's for a quarterback that early in the draft, more often than not. But I think it's possible. I'm not going to say it's probable, though. Joe, what's going on, man? Looking forward to the Giants' great reset. Now let's change up the uniforms and go back to the 80s look and start fresh. People have been saying that on my channel. What's up, Dale, man? Good to see you, man. We will have less talent this year. On defense, you might be right, Dale. We'll see. You might. It depends what we do in the draft. I don't know what we're going to do with our first round pick. I don't know who's going to be there. If we get a premium edge rusher, maybe our defense changes. It depends what we do in the draft. In terms of on the defensive side of the football. But as far as the Giants reset, now let's get up the uniforms. People have been talking about that forever on my channel. I don't really care. They can wear trash bags as long as they win football games. I don't care what they wear. But it would be cool to see a changing of the uniform. It doesn't matter to me. If it's a bad product, it's a bad product. I don't care what they wear. But I know Giants fans have wanted that change for a while. They look around the league. Teams are constantly altering their uniforms. I wouldn't mind it. I like the throwback uniforms, and I love the color rush jersey because it kind of gives me those throwback vibes. Pete, man, what's going on, man? Can you name me a playoff team with elite pass rusher but completely inept quarterback play? Of course, elite pass rushers matter, but that statement assumes you already have an above-average offense in place. I actually can name you one. I was just thinking about it as you said it. Again, it's not ideal. Don't get my words twisted, Peter. Like, I want the best quarterback we could possibly get. That's how you win in the NFL. 49ers. Maybe inept is a strong word for Jimmy Garoppolo. He has a high winning percentage, and he's won football games. But I think we could all agree that Jimmy Garoppolo is not a guy that's going to put the team on his back. And Bosa, to me, is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Top 3, top 4. So there's one. But yeah, it's not the ideal way to build a football team. You want to have as good of a quarterback as you possibly can. And we saw on championship weekend that, once they were able to stop the 49ers run, which the Rams were able to do, and they made that offense one-dimensional and they knew they had to throw, you saw the limitations to that offense. DJ Smooth, man, what's going on, man? We need Aiden or Kayvon to drop elite pass rushers. Probably won't happen. I know we've seen mocks where it's happening. Who knows? Anything can happen. It's the NFL draft. Crazy things happen. I wouldn't have thought Josh Allen, the pass rusher I'm talking about, would have fallen to us at 6 when we drafted Daniel Jones, if you would ask me at this time. I thought Josh Allen was going to be a top 3 or 4 pick. So anything could happen. but I'm not banking on it. I'd be surprised. Let's see. Jonathan Lane says, thoughts on Kevin Abrams being retained per Renan? Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been my ideal choice, but the logical reason I give for that is the Giants have started their, even though we all want an overhaul, I want an overhaul. I want everybody out here. I want a complete fresh start. I want Shane to be able to bring in his guys. The way I look at it is when you hire a head coach, when they did, you're already like, you're basically like already like in off-season form. Like the Senior Bowl starts like a week after Joe Shane was hired as the New York Giants head coach, and you've already had guys from within the staff that have already started the scouting for this team, so on and so forth. So that's why I think we didn't have like immediate wholesale changes for this football team. If you look at Joe Shane's timeline, for example, Joe Shane, even though Brandon Beane was hired in 2017, Joe Shane was not hired until after the draft in 2017. So he was not there for the initial draft, even though Beane wanted him really badly. He came after the draft because when Beane took the job, he probably said, okay, it's not the right time to overhaul everything because the draft's 2 months away. These guys have already been starting to build towards the football team. So I think that's when you'll start to see those changes. I don't know if we'll fire Kevin Abrams or not, but I think that's when you'll start to see Joe Shane bring in the guys that he feels he wants to bring in long-term to this football team. That's my mindset, at least. We'll see, but that's my mindset. I think that's why we haven't seen a complete overhaul with all the scouts and everything else when Shane took the job. I don't think Mara's forcing him on him. I really don't. Pip named Slickback says, also, I think this year proved the danger of overpaying good but not great quarterbacks. Dak, Tannehill, Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo. Teams have to be careful going forward. I've said that since I started on YouTube. You know, like I have to be fair and I have to be honest and I have to be consistent. Like I said, I think it would be a mistake for the Dallas Cowboys to extend Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. But Dak Prescott's a quarterback that's been spoon-fed an incredible team his entire career. And when you start to pay Dak Prescott, which has not taken effect yet, that contract is backloaded. I think it starts to take effect next year. You'll start to see some of the chinks in the armor. So I think it's the same thing here with the Giants. Like, I have to be consistent. If I thought it was a mistake for the Cowboys to extend Dak, unless Jones takes a huge leap, I have to say the same thing about the Giants, and hopefully Jones does. And we'll see. But yeah, I think that's the worst thing an organization could do is paying a good quarterback great money, because good quarterbacks more often than not can't overcome a limited roster, which is what happens when you give a quarterback the money that Dak received. You give, a guy like Pat Mahomes that kind of money. They have to be able to overcome a lot of deficiencies on the roster. Barema, man, thank you very much, man. Taking in the first round 2 offensive linemen would damage our cap in the future. We have to extend both at the same. We do not. If both work out, and Andrew Thomas as well. I've seen a lot of people say that, and I understand it. Like, people are like, well, how are you going to extend both offensive linemen? That's not the case. And I'll give you my reasoning as to why. I've come out and said that I think the New York Giants should extend Andrew Thomas after year 3, because I think that's the earliest time that you could do it. I don't think you could do it after 2 years. So as long as Andrew Thomas provides that he can stay healthy next year and he continues to progress as a left tackle, obviously conventional wisdom tells you this guy's going to be at least a 10-year piece on this football team. Extend him now while the market's lower. If, say, we drafted 2 offensive linemen in this year's draft, say I don't know, Linderbaum and Aquanu. Let's just say we draft those 2 guys. You could space out the money. You could extend Aquanu after his 3rd year, and you could extend Linderbaum after his 5th. You could space out the money. Just because you drafted them in the same year doesn't mean that you have to extend them on the same year. You could also structure the contracts accordingly so the money is evenly distributed. So that's not the case. You could extend them throughout different periods of their contracts. So yeah, that's my take on it, at least. That just because you draft them in the same draft doesn't mean you need to extend them at the same time. LA Lou, what's going on, man? Hey, Chris, chiming in from work on a very good Monday. Happy for my Rams and happy for your Giants and this promising do-over. You have enough talent for a quick turnaround with a better culture. Yeah, man. Listen, man, congratulations to your Rams. I know you're a great supporter of the channel. You're a huge Rams fan. That was a great game yesterday. It really was. Stafford got the job done when he needed to. And I think what ultimately won the Rams that game, when you really think about it and you watch that game, you guys won because of your defense. You won because you were able to stuff the 49ers run attack. That's because that was obviously the 49ers' strength. Neither team before that was really able to stop that. You guys did that. You made them one-dimensional, and ultimately that's why you won that football game. But that was a great game, and best of luck to you guys in the Super Bowl. I'm probably going to pick you guys to win. I think you're the better football team, but Burrow's got some magic going on right now. I'm not even going to deny it. I've picked against the Bengals each of the first 2 weeks in the playoffs, and I'm probably going to pick against them again in the Super Bowl. But wouldn't shock me at this point. Like Burrow, when I'm watching that game yesterday, not to compare the plays, because Eli Manning's play to David Tyree is the greatest play of all time. I know I'm biased, but it gave me those Eli Manning vibes for that Tyree play. Not that he threw the ball, but his ability to escape that rusher. Like he had him like, I thought he was dead to rights. I think it was Chris Jones, one of the best edge rushers in football, had him wrapped up and somehow he escaped it. And then he was able to pick up 11 or 12 yards. But it just seems like Cincinnati's got something special going on right now. I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl. As far as your enough talent for a quick turnaround with a better culture, yeah, I mean, if we could get this thing, if we could get the right quarterback in here, whether that means Daniel Jones progressing as a quarterback with Daboll or drafting the right quarterback and getting the most out of his abilities, there could be a quick turnaround. You've seen that with the Cincinnati Bengals. You've seen that with several other teams. So that's the way the NFL works. And hopefully the guys that we brought in here to do that job and analyze the players do a good job. And the New York Giants turn this thing around quicker than people expect. But it's exciting to have a new beginning. Jova, what's going on, man? If Daboll's offense succeeds his first year, I hope he doesn't pull a Graham and lose his weight. Keep the girth campaign. By the way, how do you feel if we pick Notre Dame safety Hamilton? Yeah, I said that at the beginning of the year with Graham. I said, you know what, man? I don't know if I like that he lost weight. He looked like a different person. I remember during the first game, like, oh my God, that's Patrick Graham, because he looked like a completely different person. But yeah, Daboll's got to stay fat, man. We saw the issues that could have. As far as Hamilton goes, listen, I've looked at him a bit. I've looked at some highlights. A lot of people have talked about him. I've seen him dropping in mocks. I've seen him go all the way to like 15 now to the Eagles, but who knows, right? It's a guessing game at this point. He's a really good prospect. I mean, a lot of people have him as the best prospect in this year's draft. I just don't know how much in love I am of taking a safety top 7, especially when the Giants are probably going to need a corner, right? If we cut Bradbury, and they're definitely going to need edge rushers, and we definitely need a linebacker. So I don't know how much I'm in love with taking a safety. I mean, we just took a safety earlier in 2020 with McKinney. He was the first safety off the board. Traditionally, safeties don't even go in the first round. And if they do, it's more the back end of the first round. It's not the most important position on a defense. I know Adams went top 5, but traditionally speaking. So he's a really good prospect. I just don't think I'd be in love with the Giants taking him at 7. I'm not going to cry if they do it. He's super talented. But in terms of positional value and some of the needs that this team has, I don't know. My personal opinion is, especially early in the first round, you definitely still want to try to draft best player available, but you also want to factor in positional value, and need. I think you try to match need with best player available early in the draft because those guys are supposed to be immediate contributors. So I wouldn't be in love with it. Let's put it that way. Let's see. But I understand people who would be. Jatone says Burrow's road reminds me of playoff Eli Manning. That play in particular did. I'll tell you that. When I was watching the game, I turned and I said that to the people I was with. I was like, that gave me Eli Manning vibes. The escapability on that play, I'll say that. Yeah, Burrow just finds a way to get wins, man. There's no doubt about it. You can't knock him, man. The guy's been incredible his second year in the NFL, especially coming off that injury. Burrow's been absolutely incredible for the Cincinnati Bengals this year. Let's see. Petition to rename the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Falcons for blowing a 21-3 lead in the postseason. Yeah, I said the same thing too. That was a choke job. And I'm going to put that more on Pat Mahomes than anybody else. I know Pat Mahomes is the golden child and everybody loves Pat Mahomes, and they should. He's an incredible player. Pat Mahomes came up short yesterday. Pat Mahomes choked yesterday. He was incredible against the Buffalo Bills. But that game falls with Pat Mahomes. And I think Pat Mahomes said that in the press conference after the game. Pat Mahomes came up short, man. The throw to Tyreek Hill is inexcusable. I was talking to somebody in my Discord after the game. They said they put more of the blame on Andy Reid for that play. I don't. You had 5 seconds. That's more than enough time to make a first read throw. If somebody's not open, you throw it out of the back of the end zone, you kick the field goal. The throw to Tyreek Hill was a horrible decision by Pat Mahomes. And then he made like 3 other plays that did not result in turnovers that easily could have before that turnover at the end of the game. Taking the sack was the right call before that last field goal, but to back himself up 20 yards and make it a 45-yard field goal, and he fumbled the ball. He was lucky to get it back. Pat Mahomes just gave me nervous vibes in that game as that game wore along. I'm like, this guy's feeling it. Like he definitely choked yesterday. That's not to say he won't rebound. He could win 10 more Super Bowls, but he definitely came up short yesterday. No doubt about it. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, he fell apart, Authentic. He fell apart yesterday, man. He came up short. Let's see what we got. How would you feel if we had to choose between Hutchinson or Tip? That's not going to happen. There's no chance that happens. No chance. We'd be lucky if one falls. There's no way we're going to be choosing between the two. So it's not even worth answering. Lou, man, thank you so much, man. I agree. We stopped the run and put the game on Jimmy G's arm. Burrow showed good escapability, but the Rams have plenty of practice chasing, sacking Wilson and Murray. Bring on the Bengals. I think you're the better team. I think the Rams should win. I think you're the better team. And I think that Stafford has finally started to get the monkey off his back in terms of the stigma that he's not a quarterback that could win big games. Listen, he beat Tom Brady now. And yesterday he was home, but regardless, beat the San Francisco 49ers in a good defense. Now he's in a Super Bowl. And here's what I'll say about Stafford. I think if Stafford wins this Super Bowl, even though I'm not necessarily the hugest Stafford fan, I think he's a very good quarterback. I think he cements himself as a Hall of Famer. I think he needs that. He needs this cherry on top. I think if he wins this Super Bowl, I think he's going to the Hall of Fame. And I think you're going to win. I'm picking the Rams, but I think it'll be a really good game. Let's see. John, what's going on, man? I know we've talked about it a lot, but I want Linderbaum so bad. He's the type of guy a smart organization like the Ravens or Steelers draft and becomes a cornerstone piece for the team and culture. I would love Linderbaum. I understand. I definitely understand the argument against it, though. Because centers, I don't think a center's ever gone in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. Guards have, which is, they're interior linemen regardless. So I understand the argument in terms of positional value. I don't like, though, people when they compare it to Saquon Barkley, because I think it's apples and oranges. When you took Saquon Barkley to running back, it's a position that typically starts to fall apart by the age of 27, 28, and it's a position that is dependent on a strong offensive line. You take a center, that's a 15-year piece. That's a long-term piece. So I don't like the comparison between a running back and a center. But I do understand the people that make the argument that you could get value typically at that position, because typically you can. But if they feel Linderbaum is that special of a talent, I'm not going to blink an eye. You know I absolutely love the offensive line. So if they take him, I'm not going to blink an eye. I'm going to consistently say what I think they're going to do, unless they trade down. If they trade down, that opens up Pandora's box. They could go so many different directions then. If you trade down, you could double up on the line. You could take a linebacker. You could do whatever you want. But if they stay at 5 and 7, I really believe strongly that they're going to go with the right tackle and they're going to go with the best available defensive player on their board, regardless of position. Maybe they'll factor in edge rusher, linebacker, whatever. But I think they're going to go right tackle, and I think they're going to go defense with their first 2 picks. Unless they trade down, then maybe that opens up the possibility of doubling up on the offensive line. Would I be shocked if they doubled up? No. But if you ask me what I think they're going to do, I think it'll be a right tackle and either an edge rusher or a cornerback if they cut Bradbury, maybe a middle linebacker. But I think that's the path they're going to take. When I do my mocks, more than likely that's what I'm going to be having them do. Hey, Manning with wheels. What's going on, man? What I blame Andy Reid for was play calling in the second half. They were averaging 5.8 yards per carry. They got really greedy and should have run the ball more. That's a great point. That's a great point, Peyton Manning with wheels, because I actually remember when I was watching the game, and I don't know how the carries were distributed from half to half. But what I will say, I remember when I was watching the game, I was talking to my friend while I was watching, who's a huge 49er fan, and we were talking about Jerick McKinnon, because obviously he played for the Niners for a couple of years, and he was like, oh my God, he couldn't do this for us, because he looked really good in the first half. I think he had 40, 45 yards on the ground. That's a really good point by you, especially when they had the lead that they did. And I think they had two or three possessions before the Bengals even scored, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a really good point by you. They did kind of get away from the ground game, and it was working in the first half. That's a good call by you. And and the other thing I'll say, I couldn't believe this stat. I heard it after the game. I don't remember if I heard it on TV or on Twitter or whatever. Cincinnati played the Chiefs twice this year. And this goes to coaching. The defensive coordinator for Cincinnati, they've played the Chiefs twice this year. In the 4 quarters combined, in the second half, they've surrendered 3 points. So the adjustments at halftime by the Cincinnati Bengals defense this year against the Chiefs has been top-notch. I mean, they should have given up 24, if not 28 in the first half, and they completely basically shut them out in the second half. So the adjustments were great, but a good point by you getting away from the run. Tudo, man, thank you very much, man. Salute, Chris. Drop by to pay our proper respects. And for all Giants fans around the world, slam all the stinky bird loses to the ground, man. I appreciate you for being here. Tudo, man, thank you very much. My man. Nate, what's up, man? I always hear about sticking with Jones, and if he's not the guy, take a quarterback in 2023. But what if we take the playoffs What if we make the playoffs, rather, and Daniel Jones doesn't really perform like a top 15 quarterback? Should we really trade from the 20s to top 5 to draft younger Stroud? All right, here's the thing. Because I think that's like a scenario where a lot of Giants fans have brought that up to me. They're like, well, yeah, what if that happens? What if we win 9 games, we make the playoffs, we're picking outside the top 18 picks or whatever it is, and Jones has like a Trubisky year, right? When I say a Trubisky year, I'm talking about the year where I think he threw 24 touchdowns, 12 picks, and he kind of made the playoffs due to the team around him. They went 11-5 with the Chicago Bears. My answer to you, Nate, if you feel like you can't trade up and get a quarterback, or you're not in love with a quarterback in that draft, my answer to you is one of two things. If you feel Jones is not the long-term answer, you either again, if there's not an option in the draft, if you can't trade up and get a quarterback, you either franchise tag Jones for a year, you don't give him a long-term extension, you franchise tag Jones for a year, or with a more developed roster. Because at that point, if you made the playoffs with mediocre quarterback play from Daniel Jones, that means you had a hell of an offseason and you developed your roster a lot more. Your offensive line is much better. Your defense is much improved. That is when you potentially look to acquire a quarterback via trade, if the right deal is out there. So that's my option to you. That's my answer to you. If there is not a quarterback in the draft that you feel like is a dramatic upgrade over Daniel Jones, you either franchise tag Jones for 1 year, or you look to go out there and acquire a quarterback via trade. But Nate, man, ideally, you always want to draft your quarterback. Andrew, man, thank you very much, man. Worried Neal, Hutchinson, KT, and Ekwonu go top 4 cross. I'm trying to think. I mean, it's possible. I mean, Jacksonville could certainly take a lineman. I've started to see people say that they could take Evan Neal. Maybe the Texans take a lineman. It's certainly possible. I don't think the Jets will take a lineman because they've taken 2 linemen in the first round each of the last 2 years. But they could, I suppose, as well. But if that's the case, Andrew, yeah, I mean, you probably go whoever's the next best tackle on your board. That's probably what you do at 5. Whether that be, probably Cross, but you probably go with the best tackle on your board. I think no matter what, I'm not going to say no matter what, but I'm like 80 to 85% sure the Giants are taking a tackle at 5. Pretty much no matter what. Because the Panthers could certainly take the tackle they like at 6 before they pick at 7. So I think they're going tackle at 5. At 7, I think it becomes a question, but I think they're taking tackle. Let's see what we got. Peyton Manning with Wheels says, also, thanks for keeping it real. Jones needs to be top 8 to stay. I wish Jones all the best, but I do not want to be like the Vikings or Cowboys. Yeah, and I agree with you. That's my mindset as well. And I love Daniel Jones. I'm a Giant. I'm going to love whoever plays quarterback for the Giants. I'm a Giants fan. At the end of the day, I'm going to support my ass off for whoever is the quarterback for the New York Giants, whoever's the head coach for the New York, whatever. Like I'm going to try to give them as much of an opportunity as I can, but I also have to be fair and honest. And you look around the league, teams that extend quarterbacks that are not elite talents don't maintain winning rosters. There are several prime examples of this. Matt Stafford with the Lions, Matt Ryan with the Falcons after they extended him, after they had their Super Bowl appearance, several others. Like, you have to be an elite quarterback to be able to overcome those, that kind of contract. And we'll see. I mean, maybe it's all hypotheticals at this point. We don't know how he's going to play. They could tag him, like I said, if there's a certain scenario. Maybe he gets a Tannehill contract, like it's a 3-year extension if he plays really well. But I don't want him to be getting a second contract, like a huge second contract, like you see some of these quarterbacks get, unless we truly believe, based off of his play in year 4, that he could stay with these quarterbacks in a shootout. That's what it comes down to. You asked me, like, what would it take for Daniel Jones to get a mega second contract for the New York Giants outside of winning a Super Bowl? If you win a Super Bowl, you get paid. But what would it take for Daniel Jones to get a mega contract? I have to feel, if he's in the scenario of going up against a Josh Allen, going up, not to say he's as good as those guys, but if I have to feel he could go toe-to-toe in a shootout with one of those quarterbacks. Because to me, that's what a franchise quarterback is. Period. At the end of the day, if he can't do that, no offense to Daniel Jones, you could be successful, no doubt about it. Tannehill's been successful with the Titans. I'm resetting the rookie clock, because if I have a better support system, that's how you win Super Bowls, period. In today's NFL, more often than not, teams that win Super Bowls are winning those Super Bowls with their quarterbacks on their rookie deals. More often than not. Or at least, consistently competing year in and year out. So to me, He's got to be elite to extend him. And I'm going to be consistent with that. And I hope that he is. Let's see what we got. Tudo says, please wish us wins for our upcoming playoff games against big teams. And also pray for our opponent's teams, players, casualties, because they're about to go down fast. Good luck, Tudo, man. I know you guys are killers over there with your rugby team. Pip Name Slickback says, can't wait for us to build the O-line again and get back to running back by committee. Smart teams draft a running back every 3 to 4 years instead of paying big contracts. Yeah, I agree with that too. Is there a special guy here and there? Sure, when the team is built accordingly. But I agree with that. Traditionally speaking, I think that's the better approach. And I hate saying that because I like Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley could be great. But most teams, successful teams, don't pay a premium at the running back position because, like you said, if you have a strong offensive line, you can have a platoon and have a really successful roster. And I go back and I say it all the time. All you have to do, we're all Giants fans, we've all seen the upbringing of this team, is go back and look at Tiki Barber, who was fantastic. One of my favorite Giants of all time before he said the things he said about Coughlin and Eli. Named my dog after Tiki. Was a big reason I fell in love with the New York Giants, okay? Tiki Barber led the league in rushing his last year with the New York Giants. The New York Giants rushing attack arguably got better after he retired with a 4th-round pick and a 7th-round pick and another 7th-round pick with Ward, Bradshaw, and Jacobs. And in 2008, it was undeniably better. They're the best rushing attack in football, or it was at least on par with when they had Tiki Barber. And they paid those guys a fraction of the cost of what you would have paid Tiki Barber. Reason being, the New York Giants offensive line was out of this freaking world. So I'm with you. I don't believe in paying a premium at that position more often than not. But thank you, man. I appreciate it, buddy. Lou Mateo says, OBJ, BJ Hill, and I hate to say it, but Eli Apple are all making a Super Bowl appearance. Cool. Yeah, listen, BJ Hill got the huge interception yesterday. I was happy for him. At the same time, while I was watching, I'm like, well, thanks, Dave. Not to say, like, when they made the trade, I understood it. I didn't bash them for making the trade because we were desperate and they needed depth on the offensive line. More like, they were probably not going to extend BJ Hill. He probably wasn't going to have a huge role with this team. But had the New York Giants drafted offensive lineman, they would have never had to make that trade, and BJ Hill still would have been on the roster. But I was happy for BJ Hill. He got a big interception in that game. Not so happy for Eli Apple based off some of the comments he said about New York Giants fans this past week. But I was happy for BJ Hill. That was a big play, and yeah, it'll be fun to see OBJ in the Super Bowl going up against BJ Hill. I just thought about that. OBJ more than likely will be paired up against Eli Apple because, well, I don't know that, but Cup will probably get number 1 coverage. I know he plays predominantly in the slot, so it'll be interesting. But OBJ on Eli Apple, Eli Apple's going to be burnt toast if he's matched up on OBJ. OBJ definitely looked like, and again, he's in a really good offense, okay? He's in a perfect scenario with McVay and the Rams, but OBJ looked like he was definitely a very good receiver. Let's put it that way. And I think he'll destroy Eli Apple. Tully's, man, thank you very much, man. We need to look at my boy Kyle Hamilton at possibly 7. He's the best player in the draft, and he will be a great replacement for both Jabril or Ryan. I think you mentioned him to me on Twitter as well. He seems to be getting a lot of support by New York Giants fans. If they take him, they take him. Listen, if he's a great player in our defense, we need great players. And if they feel he's far and away the best player, have at it. I just personally would prefer an edge or middle linebacker, like in a perfect scenario. I think they're more important positions for this team right now. When I say middle linebacker, I'm talking about a guy that could drop back in coverage. But yeah, if they feel Hamilton is that good, have at it. Wouldn't be my pick, but I understand people want him. He is a good prospect. Let's see. Behind the Fiend says, what I liked about Daboll today was the vibe he gave as a father figure that young players can lean on. Judge always seemed like a schoolyard bully. I mean, I think the vibe that he gives, I don't know what you want to call it, father figure, friend, whatever, but I think the vibe that he gives is that he's going to be easy to work with. He's going to be easy to play for. He's going to be a guy that is a player-friendly coach. He's going to be a guy that tries to build the team around the strengths of his players. And I think that's important. I think that's good. I think that's the vibe that he gave. I think that was the impression that we had before today's press conference based off some of the things that I've read. If you hear what Stephon Diggs has said about him, Josh Allen has said about him, that's basically what everybody said about him. I think he's a player's guy. He's going to come in here. He's going to try to get the most out of his players. So however you want to call it, father figure, I don't know, friendly guy, I don't know, but that's the vibe that I get. Bill, what's going on, man? He says, love to see a vid dedicated to our current cap situation and realistic plan for the next 2 seasons. Yeah, I think I did a video. Maybe I didn't. I thought I did, but yeah, I'll do a video on that, talking about the future cap. I think I did that though. I could be wrong on that. I thought I did that. But if I didn't, I will. I'll look back into it. I thought I did, but if not, I will do a video on that for sure. I always do cap videos in the off season, so I'll definitely get into that as the off season progresses. But I thought I did that like a month ago. You might have missed it because it was mixed in with a lot of other videos. But if I didn't, I'll definitely make one on it for sure. But I mean, listen, I'll pull up the cap for you right now. For everybody that says we're in cap hell, next year we are. Our cap situation's bad. The following year, Bill, it's not that bad at all. If you go to 2023, just updating real quick. If you go to 2023, first off, we have, how much do we have? We have, why isn't it showing me the cap space? Oh, I gotta go this way. Oh, there we go. Right now we have $87 million of cap space. Now, granted, that's not factoring in the rookie salaries, right? You're gonna have rookies next year, you're gonna have rookies the following year, and you're gonna have 2 high draft picks this year. So we'll say that 87 with the draft picks is more like 60. We'll say that. But then if you look at what we could do in terms of cuts, Leonard Williams, he's probably going to be cut. Leonard Williams is going to save you $18 million if you cut him. And again, no attachments to anybody on this team. He's either going to cost you 26.3 to keep him or 8.3 to cut him. Just that cut alone gives you $18 million. So you're going from like 60, 65 to like 85 or 80. Kenny Golladay, probably going to be cut if we're being honest with ourselves. The guy has had injury troubles. He's going to save you over $11 million if you cut him. So just between Leonard Williams and Golladay, if you cut those guys, that's $30 million added to that cap. So your 60, 65 is now 90, 95. And that's after draft expenses. Adoree Jackson, depends how he plays next year, he could save you $12 million if you cut him. 16.5 to keep him, 4.5 to cut him. Shepard will already be cut, so I'm not going to factor him in. Logan Ryan will absolutely be cut. So that 12.2, $3 million if you cut him is going to save you another $9 million. So there's a lot of things the Giants are going to be able to do that following year. Big contracts that they could get off the books. And that's why I say, like, I don't think our cap situation is nearly as bad as people make it out to be long-term. We could have a lot of cap space in 2023 if we do this right, especially if we don't spend big this offseason, which I don't think we should. Pencilman says, great content. If we trade down our pick, it has to be before the Eagles pick. Yeah, I don't think we would trade further back than 15, which is where the Eagles are picking. That would be a huge drop. So I don't think that'll happen. I think the furthest, I've talked about this. If you go on Tankathon, I think the furthest the Giants will drop back, because like I said, if we're trading back, I think it's for a quarterback. And all right, you look at it, Atlanta could need a quarterback at 8. Denver could need a quarterback at 9. Washington could need a quarterback, but I don't think we would trade with Washington at 11. Minnesota potentially could need a quarterback because Cousins probably is not going to be viewed as the long-term answer at 12. And maybe Cleveland, being that Baker Mayfield's probably not a long-term answer. So I could see them trading down at 8, 9, 12, or 13. I think those are the 4 spots we could potentially trade down to. I don't think we're dropping any further than that. So I don't think we would drop behind the Eagles if we were to trade down. I'd be surprised. Now, of course, the Eagles could trade up. Eagles have 3 first-round picks, so if they really like a player, they could trade up. Let's see. Laid back, man. He says, can Daniel Jones do what Joe Burrow did if Daniel Jones he plays for the Bengals? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, I can't say conclusively, but probably not, if we're being honest with ourselves. I hope he could. And I'll get a better view of him next year. Like next year, we're going to have a better scheme. We're going to have an improved offensive line, but probably not. I mean, Joe Burrow was a number 1 overall pick for a reason. Joe Burrow was a number 1 overall pick in a very rich quarterback draft class. Daniel Jones was the 6th overall pick in a poor quarterback draft class, and a scrutinized pick at that by most people. So probably not. Joe Burrow is an elite talent at the quarterback position. But thank you, man. I appreciate it. Let's see. Behind the Fiend says, you may have answered this already, but do you think the possibility of retaining Graham is a mistake? No, I don't. He wouldn't he's not my like number one choice. Like if I was sitting at a fantasy defensive coordinator meeting, like I would take Fangio. Fangio to me has been one of the elite defensive coordinators in the NFL for a long time if he wanted to take this job. But I don't think Patrick Graham's a mistake. Patrick Graham to me is a pretty good defensive coordinator. He's a really smart guy. And he's a guy that's worked with Daboll before. And Daboll probably has a really good relationship with him. I think he's done a better job than some Giants fans give him credit for. The guy's had nothing to work with in terms of having any help from his offense his 2 years here. And the Giants had a lot of injuries this year. They don't have any pass rushers. So I do think Patrick Graham is a good defensive coordinator. I do. There's a reason the guy has gotten head coaching interviews, even though the New York Giants stink. The New York Jets wanted to bring him in for an interview. He said no. He wanted to stay with Joe Judge after 1 year. This year he's interviewing for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think he interviewed for another job as well. So, no, I don't think it's a mistake. It may not be my number one choice, but I think he's a solid defensive coordinator, and he's got a rapport with the players. The players seem to respect him. I don't think it's a mistake. DJ Smooth says Jim Harbaugh in Minnesota would be the best hire. I'm going to tell you this right now, DJ Smooth. If the Minnesota Vikings hire Jim Harbaugh and Aaron Rodgers leaves the Packers, I'm picking the Vikings to win the North. And the Vikings may be my sleeper pick to I'm not going to say go to a Super Bowl, but might be my sleeper pick to really surprise in 2022. I have a lot of respect for Harbaugh as a head coach. Let's see. Alvaro. He says, sup, Chris. The new era of the NFL is here. What's going on, Alvaro, man? Thanks so much for being here, buddy. Yeah, I like Patrick Graham. I see no issues with Patrick Graham. I think it's a good move keeping Patrick Graham. Check Bobby Thompson on Twitter. I saw Bobby. I mean, I don't know how credible that guy is. He's got like 5,000 followers, but he tweeted something earlier about Patrick Graham, if that's what you're referring to. Let me see. The Bills are actively interviewing candidates for their vacant OC position. Ooh. Okay. The Bills are actively interviewing candidates for their vacant OC position, indicating that Ken Dorsey will be taking the Giants offensive coordinator position, as I previously reported. Nothing official yet. So like I said, I don't know how official that guy is. And if the Buffalo Bills are indeed interviewing offensive coordinator candidates, which I have not looked into, but if they are, yeah, it would lead me to believe that they think Dorsey's probably leaving, which would be great. I would love Ken Dorsey for the simple reason that he's worked with Daboll before. Reports have come out that Daboll almost wants a package deal with Dorsey. He thinks he can get the most out of his offense. So I think it would be great to bring him over here. Obviously, he did a good job bringing up Josh Allen. So that'd be nice. Yeah, that's great, Wild Child says, for sure, man. It was reported that Daboll said he wanted to be a package with. Yeah, that's what I just said, Joe. So I think that'd be great if we got Dorsey. Start bringing in a new offense, a modern day offense to this football team, and see what you get out of Jones and potentially the future quarterback. Jay says, can we please get Mike Munchak on the staff? We live and die with our O-line. If anyone can fix the O-line problems, it's him. Listen, I would love that. I've seen a lot of people bring his name up. I would love it. I would absolutely love it if we brought in Munchak. Whoever we bring in, I want to be here for a while. I don't want to consistently flip over offensive line coaches also, like we've done. We've been through 3 offensive line coaches in the last 2 years. Granted, when you lose a head coach, that's typically what happens. But we talk about continuity now. We're also going to have a brand new offensive line. We're going to have a lot of new pieces on that offensive line. But whoever we hire, I want to make sure he's here for at least 3 or 4 years to build this line up and get this line back to where it needs to be. Let's see. Somebody asked me, pick up, maybe we'll take Willis. I am not going to bother making videos on Willis because I'm almost positive we're not drafting a quarterback. I would be very surprised at this point if we're drafting a quarterback. I'll give you guys my opinions on the quarterbacks throughout the process, but I don't think we're drafting one. Not in the first round, at least. Johnny says, Linderbaum is giving me Pitts vibes in that a team will fall in love with him and reaches for him. In the words of Joe Burrow, why not us? Yeah, I mean, Pitts is really good. Don't get it twisted, but I thought it was a horrible pick by the Falcons for the simple reason, first off, tight end number 3 overall or 4 overall, whatever it was, for a team that should start to be rebuilding. It gave me Saquon Barkley vibes. Like, it was like, yeah, he's an incredible talent, but is that the right pick for the situation you're currently in? So I didn't like the Pitts pick. Yuri says 2 number 1 overall picks will be playing at the Super Bowl, Burrow and Stafford. And I wonder if that's ever happened before. I'd have to think about that. Obviously, Eli Manning was a number 1 overall pick, but Brady wasn't when he played. Peyton Manning was a number 1 overall pick. I'm trying to think his quarterbacks who he went up against. The Bears, obviously not. With the Broncos, he went up. Who did he play against the Broncos? I'm trying to remember. Did he play Seattle? I think. No, Seattle played. Who did he play? Oh, he played the Panthers. So if he played the Panthers, there's another instance. Cam Newton and Peyton Manning. So that would there's another one where 2 number 1 overall picks went up against each other. But that's a cool stat. There you go. Peyton versus Newton. Yep. Manning versus Newton. Yep. So there you go. I guess that was the only other one, or maybe there was another one. Let's see. Damn, Chris, you're always yelling about to make me drive off the road, man. Chris, you're always yelling about. I don't mean to yell. Sorry, Delia. Sorry, man. Let's see. I'm just happy we got a good alignment with our head coach and GM. Yeah, we got a head coach and a GM on the same timeline. So that's what I wanted. It's why I spoke out and said that my opinion was we should move on from Joe Judge for that reason alone. I think that's important. You want your GM to be able to pick the head coach, and the Giants finally have that. They did have it, to be fair, in 2018, and didn't work out. And I thought they had too quick of a trigger finger in terms of firing their head coach when they did it. I know that people wanted to move on from Shermer because they had just drafted a quarterback. I thought it was a mistake. But this time around, I want these guys to get at least 3, if not 4 years together, and hopefully they build this team up the right way. If Jones has his rookie year numbers, is that good enough? No. I don't care about numbers. Everybody always brings up numbers, like what's good enough for Daniel Jones to stay on. I don't care about numbers. I don't care about stats. I mean, obviously, you need a certain kind of statistical evidence to prove that the guy's a good quarterback. If he throws 24 touchdowns and 12 picks and the Giants win 7 games and he proves that he can't beat top-tier teams and he can't elevate the football team, I don't care. I don't care what his numbers are. I have to give a guy a long-term contract extension, the guy has to prove that he's a top 7, 8 quarterback. Period. I don't care what the stats say. Let me ask you this. Let me pull up the stats. What do you think of these stats? I'm not going to give you the quarterback's name, but what do you think of these stats? 66% completion percentage, 4,221 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, 103 QB rating. What do you think of those stats? 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, 103 QB rating. What do you think of those stats? Sound like good stats, right? Do you view Kirk Cousins as a franchise-altering quarterback? Do you view Kirk Cousins as a guy that could go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes? I don't care what the stats say. Do you view him as that? So I don't care what stats tell me. I need to feel that this is a guy that could be an elite top-tier quarterback, because even Kirk Cousins can't get a 5-6 year contract. They're great stats. Let's see what we got. Sergio, man, thank you very much. He says, I hope Daniel Jones can get it together. If we're talking skill set, he is more than capable. Not comparing them, but for example, Burrow doesn't have the unique physical traits, just has it. I mean, in terms of the mobility, I would tend to agree with you. Burrow doesn't have Jones's mobility, but I'm not going to compare the quarterbacks. Burrow's a better player than Daniel Jones. Stat that, Dan Big Blue says. I don't care what stats tell me. Stats don't tell the whole story with a quarterback. Kirk Cousins is not. If I was a GM, I would not give Kirk Cousins a 5-6 year commitment. So that's just my opinion on the matter. Authentic says, name the quarterbacks in the league that could go toe-to-toe with Mahomes and Josh Allen. I think Herbert could. I think Burrow could. I think, obviously, Mahomes and Allen are in that level. I think Rodgers could. Maybe not Rodgers when he's 40, but at one point, I think Brady could. I think there's 6 or 7 quarterbacks that are in that. Obviously, I put those guys higher. The 4 best young quarterbacks are the guys I just said. It's Herbert, Burrow, Allen, and Mahomes. Those are the 4 best young quarterbacks currently in the NFL. But the way I look at it, Authentic, because at the end of the day, as a general manager in an organization, it's about winning. What gives me the best chance to win a Super Bowl? That has to be the objective. Is it paying Kirk Cousins, who's a good quarterback, $35 to $40 million a year? Because that's what it costs. That's the going rate. On a 200, is it better to pay a good quarterback 15 to 20 million percent, 15 to 20% against the cap, or to draft a new one and start it back on the rookie scale? My answer to you is draft a new one. Draft a new one. You could find another Kirk Cousins in the draft if you build the team properly. To get that kind of money, to commit that much money to your salary cap to a good but not a great quarterback is a mistake, in my opinion. It's a mistake. Let's see what we got. Tony, thank you very much. Says long-term could work. Trade a fifth pick, second or third next year. Kenny Golladay for Quentin Nelson and second or third pick. Draft the line with the seventh pick, and we have a top O-line. Long-term could work. Trade a fifth pick, second or third next year. Kenny Golladay. Well, that's not going to happen. I mean, I would love to get Quentin Nelson, but that's not going to happen. And I don't think I would do that much. I don't think I'd give up the fifth pick. I would rather just draft the future offensive lineman and have him on the rookie salary rather than commit a top-tier salary to Quentin Nelson. But nobody's going to want to acquire Kenny Golladay. I mean, I would love to have Quentin Nelson on the New York Giants, but that's not going to happen. And let's see. And you ain't got these 1008. Thank you so much, man, for the 99-cent donation, man. Appreciate it, buddy. Bob Wells says, after watching Deebo and Tyreek, that's how we need to use Kadarius Toney's scheme, him open. Old regime had no idea how to use him. I agree to an extent, and I even said that on Twitter after I watched the 49ers the week before. I do think we need to use Toney, not in an identical way that the 49ers use Deebo, because if the Giants use Toney the same exact way the 49ers use Deebo, Kadarius Toney will be dead. Look at the way that Deebo Samuel is built. Deebo Samuel is built like a brick shithouse. Like, he is built. So he can sustain a beating as a ball carrier. Toney cannot. Toney's elusive. I definitely think you need to use Toney somewhat in the run game, but I don't think you could use him in an identical fashion to the way that the 49ers use Deebo Samuel. But they definitely need to get a lot more creative. I completely agree with you on that. And I do think that Brian Daboll will. I think we'll see a lot more creativity. And I also think the wide receiver that's going to benefit the most is Kadarius Toney, if he can stay on the football field that's currently on this roster. Samuel Weber, man, thank you so much, man, for the 99-cent donation, man. I appreciate it, buddy. But dude, I mean, Deebo Samuel was just trucking people, just running people over. like Kadarius Toney can't do that. Let's see. I may go live for the next Gennaro. We'll see. I might. I haven't decided yet. I might. How are you feeling about Abrams still being around? Yeah, somebody asked me that earlier. I mean, I'm not in love with Kevin Abrams. If it was up to me, everybody would be gone. My reasoning, as I said earlier, was I think you'll see a change if they're going to move on from Abrams. I think they're definitely not going to keep everybody. And I think you'll start to see wholesale changes after the draft. The reason being, they're already, into the draft process. They've been into the draft process, these scouts and everybody else, for the last couple of months. And if you go back and look at the Buffalo Bills, when Shane got hired, he didn't get hired until after the draft in 2017, even though Bean was there in 2017. They didn't bring Shane on until after the draft because they probably said, all right, let's get the process done with, and then we'll start to make our wholesale changes. So I expect them to make some changes in terms of the scouting department, things of that nature after the draft. That's what I think will happen. But I don't know if Kevin Abrams will be fired. Kevin Abrams may just stay on to be a cap guy, which I'm okay with, whatever. Not that he did a great job this year, but as long as he doesn't have much of an influence in terms of the roster building, which I don't think he would, whatever. Chris, did you see Daboll calls the O-line the Boulders? No, I didn't. That's pretty good, though. I like it. Nutty says Giants are winning the offseason thus far. Yeah, I don't care about winning off seasons, though. I care about winning regular seasons. Sergio, thank you very much, man. This Bobby Thompson guy on Twitter has been on top of Giants news. Just as the Bills are interviewing other OCs, Dorsey to the New York Giants. Yeah, to give him credit, he has been. I still question him a little bit because he's got like 5,000-6,000 followers, and I don't know how credible he is. But yes, he has called a lot of things out, and hopefully that's the case. And if that is true, and I'll have to do some research on that, if the Bills are in fact interviewing potential offensive coordinator candidates, it would lead you to believe that they think there's at least a high probability that Dorsey's moving on. And if he is, yeah, you have to think he's coming to the New York Giants, which would be great. Let's see. Matthew says Baker should be fined for holding OBJ back. And Baker's not good. I've been saying that now for a while. Baker's just not good. He's not a good quarterback. And I understand why OBJ wanted out of there. Do I agree with the method in which he did it? Not necessarily, but I understand why he wanted out of there. Baker Mayfield's not a good quarterback. He's just not. People look at stats will say he is, based off his, I think it was his third year. He had a good statistical year. Baker Mayfield's not a good quarterback. He's just not. Tana, I'm late. I'm sorry, but what are your thoughts on the press conference and how Daboll was able to handle some of these tough questions? I love the way that Daboll answered the questions. I thought he came across personable. Again, I'm not going to get overly excited by an opening press conference. I think we learned that mistake the last time around with Joe Judge, but I loved it. He came across as a guy that was himself. He didn't like rehearse what he was going to say. Like, that's the vibe that I got. He just gave off the cuff answers, honest answers. And I liked it. He came across a guy that I'd like to have a beer with, and a guy that seems confident in himself and what he's going to do for this football team. Chris, I think Ekwonu and Neal or Ekwonu and Ojabo are the smart picks. Yeah, I mean, if you look at most of these mock drafts right now, that seems to be the consensus for most people. Is not every mock, but the majority of the mocks for the Giants right now have us taking the best tackle and the best edge rusher. And most of them that I've seen, it's been Ekwonu and Ojabo. There's been alterations. There's been Karlaftis at the edge. There's been Cross at the edge. But the majority right now today have been, and this could change, but I've been Ekwonu and Ojabo from Michigan. That's been the majority that I've seen. I was actually looking at that the other day. Samuel says, Matt Ariza, punter of San Diego State. We need him. Absolute game changer. I agree with you. I think we need to draft a punter. I know a lot of people have brought him up to me. But whoever's the best punter in this year's draft the punter in the 6th round. I don't think we have a 7th round pick. Maybe we do, but I don't think we do because we traded it. Whatever our last pick is, draft the punter. I cut Dixon and draft the punter with that last pick. Tana, Daboll's suit was a little McAdoo-ish, but that's good because McAdoo went downhill once he slicked back the hair and changed his wardrobe. I don't care what kind of suits the guy wears. I could care less. Let's see. DM, man, what's going on, man? Samuel and Tony are the same size. Debo looks like he's 6'2" or 3 and about 220. Thorpe told me that in a... Really? They do not look the same size at all. Let me take a look at Debo. Debo, Samuel, height, and weight. They do not look the same size. Debo is listed at 5'11", 216. Darius Toney. No, they're not. At least according to this. Tony is, they're the same height. Tony's 6 foot. Debo's 5'11", but Debo's 216. Tony's 194. So Debo's got 22 pounds of muscle on him. That's a big difference. So no, they're not, at least according to their official height and weight, they're not the same weight. 22 pounds of muscle is a big difference. LJ, man, what's going on, man? Chris, who do you want to win the Super Bowl? I want the Bengals, even though I'm probably going to root for the Bengals. I don't really have a dog in the fight. I'm not a guy that's going to passionately root for any team if it's not the New York Giants. I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I guess the Bengals have that underdog story. I typically pull for the underdog when I don't have a team in the Super Bowl, so I guess I'll go for Cincinnati. Yeah, 22 pounds of muscle is a huge difference. Yep. I'm rooting for the Bengals just to see them win. Yeah, I think I'm the same way. Eli Apple single-handedly made me not want to support the Bengals. Well, if you factor that in, maybe I will pull for the Rams. What's up, Cody? Kevin Paul says, Bobby Thompson tweeting about Buffalo interviewing OC candidates, meaning Dorsey likely coming to the Giants. Don't know if this makes sense, but I'm excited. Yeah, let me, hold on. Let me look at if there's any legitimacy to this. I'm trying to see if it's come out that they're definitely interviewing. Doug Peterson, Pep Hamilton, Ken Dorsey, Zach Robinson are the Bills' OC candidates. That's the last I saw. Bills to interview Ravens wide receiver coach T. Martin for vacant. Yeah, so they're interviewing people. They're interviewing T. Martin. This came out officially 21 minutes ago. The Bills are interviewing wide receiver coach T. Martin for the vacant offensive coordinator job. So, yeah, it looks like they think he's probably moving on. And you have to think if he's moving on, naturally, he's coming to the Giants. So that'd be great, man. I would love to get Dorsey here. Like I said earlier, just for the simple reason he's got ties to Daboll. Asia, thank you so much for the super sticker. Mwah, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Ken Dorsey deal is probably coming up. Yeah, I think the Giants are going to break the bank. I think they're going to give him a boatload of money. I think he's going to get paid, man. Annotated Talking Sports. Thoughts on Daboll probably not calling the plays. Do you trust Dorsey? What do you think is? Yeah, they asked that, Taco, today. Let me pull up the exact quotes. That was in one of the quotes I wanted to pull up, but I just kept talking to you guys. Let me pull up the quotes. They asked that today of whether or not he's going to call the plays. Let me pull up some of the quotes here. Here's a couple of the quotes from today's press conference. Let me just get rid of that real quick, and I'll get back to it, Michael. Here's a couple of the quotes. Brian Daboll said it's very enticing to work with Joe Schoen to make something that's lasting. Daboll said he drove through the snowstorm to get here, and Daniel Jones was one of the few people in the building. And he talked about Daniel Jones. I didn't pull up the exact quote, but he talked about Daniel Jones a decent amount throughout the press conference, said he wanted to build an offense around Daniel Jones. Daboll said it's a work in progress to decide with who will call the plays on offense. Here it is. It will depend on the offensive coordinator. So he basically said when people asked him whether or not he's going to call the plays, he said it depends on who we bring in as the OC. So I would only assume if he brought in Dorsey, you have to think he has a lot of confidence in him. He's probably going to be the guy calling the plays. But, I mean, listen, I'm going to leave it up to Daboll. He's the head coach. So if Daboll feels that's the best way to go about doing it, I'm completely fine with that. I'm sure that Daboll and Dorsey are going to have a rapport with one another. They're going to talk, before each game in terms of what the overall game plan is going to be. And if Daboll thinks that Dorsey's not doing a good job, he'll step in and call the plays. But in an ideal scenario, I think that's best. I think that's best case. You let the head coach focus on the overall team. You let the coordinators call the plays. So I'm completely fine with that. And it's not like Daboll runs it's not, like Chip Kelly, for example, had like a scheme, or Cliff Kingsbury has a scheme. That's not really what Daboll's about. Daboll's a guy that fits the offense more around the players that are on his roster and tries to bring out the best in their abilities. It's not like he has like a defined scheme. So I'm completely fine with that. Michael, man, thank you very much, man. This is way better than when you stream with he scammed me and is I don't know. I'm not gonna say any of that. And what are your thoughts on Eli Apple's mother? Look on Twitter. Michael, man, thank you very much, man. I appreciate the donation. As far as Eli Apple's mother, I think what you're referring to is, and I don't have the exact quotes. I'll look it up right now just to make sure I get it properly. But I think she came out and basically attacked fans for attacking her son. But let me make sure I get the exact quotes. And then Apple kind of fired back. Eli Apple's mother is wilding. Let me see here. Let me get the exact quotes. I don't know exactly what she said. I wish I did. Maybe somebody in the chat could tell me. But what was? So she's protecting him, and he's like 25 to 30. Yeah, I think she came out and bashed people for bashing her son. I keep seeing Royal write 4. Why are you writing 4? Why are you writing 4? I think he would pull Dorsey in the boot to call the plays. I want Dorsey to be the OC. You asked me who I want to be the OC, Cody. I want Dorsey to be the OC. Tana, what would you do if we drafted Icahn and Neal? I would die. I would be so excited. What's up there, Gabe Mannix popping in? Listen, I'm trying to see exactly what she said, but regardless, what I'll say is at the end of the day, on social media, people are entitled to say their opinions that they want. You get paid millions of dollars. The fans are entitled to give their opinions of your son. That's what I'll say. And Eli Apple sucks as a football player. So I don't know exactly what she said, but I'm sure she was probably wrong. Asia, thank you very much, man. Stand up, my 16. Chris, who you want to win the Super Bowl, OBJ or Eli Apple? I don't really think about individuals when I think about who I want to win a game. I think about the teams themselves. I guess if I was pulling for one out of those two, it'd be OBJ, but I'm probably going to pull for Cincinnati just because they're the underdog. But obviously, Eli Apple right now is public enemy number one with New York Giants fans. I don't think Bad Dog did anything, Buck. So it's just he didn't do anything. It's just the guy that's voicing his opinion. I'm sure tons of people say bad things about me too. I'm not gonna agree with him on that though. Patrick Graham will probably be the DC. I do think Patrick Graham's going to be the DC. Stafford, he paid his dues in Detroit for 12 years. Oh, you're rooting for Stafford because of that. What's going on? Yesterday, Ray, I watched the game with my brother. My brother asked me to come over. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I watched the game with my brother and my friend yesterday, NFC Championships. That's why I didn't stream the games. But I had a reasoning as to why. Anthony, Matt, thank you very much, man. Chris, in all honesty, do you think DJ will develop pocket awareness? He seems to have a mental block towards it. You see this? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. All I can hope for as a fan is with the improved coaching, he gets better in that area. And in fairness to him, he doesn't often have a clean pocket. So hopefully we improve the offensive line, and hopefully with a better offensive scheme, he improves as a football player. That's what I hope. And the guy's mind is probably scrambled, right? He's been through all these different schemes, all these different head coaches. I think, and I'm not going to put out stat predictions because then people troll you for it. I made a bold take before the end of the year. I was dead wrong. There was a lot of injuries on the team. Jones himself, the offensive line, and the team was a mess. So I'm not making any bold predictions. I'm not going to put out stat predictions for Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones, if he's healthy, will be a better quarterback next year. I just don't necessarily think he'll be good enough to extend long term, but I think he will be a better quarterback. And there's obvious reasons as to why. The improved scheme and hopefully the improved offensive line, which I think they're going to focus on heavily in the offseason. The question is, will it be, good enough? The run blocking this year was horrible. Last year, the run blocking was actually, the year before, the run blocking was actually pretty good. And the pass protection was horrible. Pass protection was still bad. I just think we've been so accustomed to seeing like the worst of the worst that when the pass protection is decent, and don't get me wrong, the pass protection was really good against the Saints. Like there's a game here or there, you could talk about how the pass protection was good, but overall, pass protection was not good. Maybe it wasn't like nearly as bad as the run blocking, but it was still bad. It needs to be improved. The line needs to be improved, plain and simple. Tana, worried Aquanu and Neal are gone at 5. At that point, do you reach for Cross and Linderbaum? I think we take a tackle no matter what with one of those two picks. You want to call it a reach, call it a reach. But I think we're taking a tackle. Adam says, good coach presser. Yeah, I was impressed with it. He came across authentic to me. Didn't look like, I was impressed. Again, it's just a press conference, but I was impressed with it. Amazing Guy says, got to feel bad for Judge. He wanted Daboll and Graham as his coordinators. By the way, one thing I wanted to say, it was pretty cool yesterday. I forgot who it was. I wanted to shout him out. He told me his name, and I recognized it when he said it. He's in my chats all the time. I went to a bar to watch the game with my brother and my friend, and one of my subscribers came up to me. He's like, he started talking Giants with me for like 20 minutes. He's like, I watch you all the time, but I can't remember the guy's name. I wanted to shout him out. Hopefully he's in the chat. Thanks for the support, man. Chambers, man, thank you very much. Is there anything we could do about the horrible injury bug this team? Appreciate your work. Yeah, Shane kind of talked about that in his opening press conference, that he kind of hinted at the field. I don't know. I think part of it's definitely been bad luck. It's also been we've brought in players that have had injury histories before. And maybe some of it has to do with the medical staff. I think a lot of it certainly has to do with the field and the turf, because the reason I think that, I think it's obvious, opposing teams have commented on it. Just last year, Shanahan commented on it when the 49ers played the Jets and Giants back-to-back weeks. So I think that's something the Giants definitely have to take a good, hard, strong look at. You're still going to have injuries. Football is a game of injuries, but you got to try to do everything in your power to minimize the injuries. So that's something that they should take a look at in the offseason. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Shane hinted at that in his press conference, that they're going to look at that. If that's true, then the Jets would have just as many injuries, and they don't. I'm not saying it's only because of the field. I just think that's part of it. Large Pepsi. Cody, I'm gonna give Mara some credit for that. Listen, he was an idiot for the medium Pepsi giveaway. If you guys aren't aware, at the end of the press conference today, reportedly, Mara told all the reporters on the way out he's going to give them a free large Pepsi. So he basically kind of like poked fun at his mistake that he made when he did the giveaway for the free medium Pepsi. I'm actually going to give Mara credit for that. I thought it was pretty funny that he basically is poking fun of the silly mistake he made in season. 26 to Buffalo. I called it. What, Barkley? I think I could see that. Chill boy, what's going on, man? Don't think Cross is a reach. A lot have him mocked pretty high, starting at 5. I've seen Cross mocked to the Giants in a few mocks for sure. Yeah, I've even seen Cross being mocked. You can't go by the mocks. I've seen Ekwonu, like people talk about they're worried Ekwonu could go top 4. And this isn't most mocks, but I've even seen some mocks with Ekwonu going in like 25, 26, 27. So I've seen these guys going all over the place. Who knows? Who knows how the New York Giants are going to evaluate these tackles? They're taking a tackle. I'm telling you right now. I'll never say for sure, but I'd be surprised if they don't take a tackle with one of those top 2 picks. Charles Barkley says, I don't give him credit for that. It's another kick. I'm not saying I'm not saying that excuses the mistake that he made. I'm just saying it was pretty funny when I heard about it. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm happy that he did what he did with the medium Pepsi. Michael Sack says, what if both top edges fall to 5 and 7 over the line? It's not going to happen though. I mean, if Kayvon Thibodeau falls to the Giants at 5, you take him. Plain and simple. I don't care who's there. If you identify Kayvon Thibodeau to be a franchise game-changing edge rusher, you take him. Or Aiden Hutchinson, you take him. There's no way both of them are going to drop. No chance. 0% chance. And if they do, then you have to question why. But no way. I'd be shocked if one drops, let alone both. Greg's good, Buck, so he's doing well, man. If we could trade the 7th pick back for a 2023 first, definitely do it. I agree. Or the 5th or the 7th, John. Whichever pick is viewed as more desirable by another team, whichever you get the more for. But either pick, I agree. Yeah, no way that happens, Michael. No chance, man. We always seem just out of reach from the can't miss top draft prospects, regardless of how bad we are. Well, what are you referencing, Bingo? I'm assuming you're referencing the Chase Young pick. Let me ask you, Bingo, who would you rather have right now? I think I'd rather have Andrew Thomas, Chase Young or Andrew Thomas. But I get what you're saying. I mean, we had a chance at number 2 when we took Saquon Barkley. We could have taken Josh Allen at number 6, who I thought was a transcendent player, the edge rusher. So we've had opportunities. Someone team is going to be dumb enough call up the Eagles to trade up to 2, 3, or 4 to take a quarterback. I hope a quarterback goes in the top 4, because that means somebody will drop to the New York Giants that shouldn't. I really don't think the Eagles are going to take a quarterback. They could, but I think they're going to stick with Hurts. I mean, I think even though I don't think Hurts is going to be the long-term answer for that football team, I think he did enough this year to where they could at least be like, okay, this guy could be a bridge quarterback for at least a few more years, and maybe we find out we have something with him. So I think they're going to push forward with Hurts next year. I don't think they'll draft a quarterback. Now, maybe they still draft a quarterback, but I don't think they'll trade up to get one. What's up, B-Dog, man? Thanks for popping in. Hell no, Tata. Give me Chase Young. I don't know. I mean, Chase Young is great. If he comes back healthy next year, he definitely could take a huge leap, and he's an incredible talent. But if we didn't have Andrew Thomas right now, what would our line look like? It's like I don't know. Like if Andrew Thomas is that guy that's going to be on the left side for the next 10 to 15 years for this football team, that's incredibly valuable. And based off the start that Chase Young's gotten off to, I don't know. Somebody asked a question here. Why hasn't there been any updates on Jones's neck? I don't think we're taking it as seriously as it needs to be. I mean, from what I heard when I talked to Patricia Traina, they took that out of context. When Jones said that he couldn't have any contact until August, I think what he meant, at least from what I've heard, is that he basically said there won't be any contact until August, which is true of any quarterback. You wear the red jersey. Based off the way that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll and John Mara have talked about Daniel Jones, and John Mara came out today and said that he expects Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback next year. I think Daniel Jones is going to play. I don't think they're too worried about the neck injury for next year. Maybe that changes throughout the offseason. But right now, I'm going in with the expectations that Jones is going to be the starting quarterback next year. Let's see. Grim Man, thank you very much, man. He says, even if DJ's average this year, Shane should have the autonomy to move off of him. Nothing worse than an average quarterback situation. Need a top 10 guy. I agree. And that maybe you keep Jones for another year, but you still draft your future quarterback if he does not progress to that level of player. I agree with you. That's what the best teams do. That's what the 49ers did. That's what the 49ers did it twice. They did it twice. They did it. Alex Smith to be fair, they drafted Kaepernick the year that Alex Smith brought them to an NFC title game, but they did it with him and they did it with Trey Lance a year after Jimmy Garoppolo brought the 49ers to a Super Bowl. If you could get an upgrade at that position that you think is a significant upgrade, you always have to consider it. I'm not in favor with it this year because I think you need to fill in the holes, but the following year, I'm probably going to be, unless Daniel Jones does a lot better than I think he will. Isaac, he says Chase Young at the moment is kind of overrated. I think Chase Young is still going to be a damn good player, provided he can stay healthy. I still think he's going to be a damn good player. I don't know if he's ever going to reach Bosa levels, though. I'm going to tell you that right now. Bosa's a beast. But I still think he's damn good. What do you think about how he handled the Saquon Barkley question? Yeah, he got asked that at the end, Charlie, and it kind of got cut off. And I don't have the transcript in front of me. Maybe I do. I don't think I do, though. I don't think I have the transcript in front of me. He got asked. That was like the last question, at least the last question they showed on the Giants YouTube page. And he basically said that he talked to Saquon Barkley the day before. I think Barkley reached out to him, but it sounded like kind of non-committal, if I'm not mistaken, to Saquon Barkley, at least long-term. At least that's the way that I interpreted it, which I don't think he should be. I mean, long-term. I don't think he should be committed to Saquon Barkley long-term. I think it'd be a mistake. So that's the way it sounded. I do think Saquon Barkley will be the starting running back next year for the Giants, but I don't think he's going to be in the long-term plans. Pencilman says, as bad as our team played, Mara should have given out bottles of 12-year-old scotch. Linderbaum has a PFF rating of 95. Yeah, Linderbaum and PFF said that in their mock draft. I think they had the Giants taking Kayvon Thibodeau and Linderbaum with their first two picks, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, they even said in like their paragraph when they were breaking down each selection, they said, yes, we're well aware that you shouldn't take a center traditionally this high in the draft, but he is that special of a talent. And if that's the way the Giants feel, have at it, man. I'm not going to cry at all if you take a center, if he's going to be an elite player at that position for the next 10 to 15 years. DB says, Daboll said there was barely anyone in the building when he first got there, and one of them was Daniel Jones. Feels so bad for the kid, man. He had a tough go. Daniel Jones was there. The other guy that really stood out to me when I saw the video, who I felt bad for, was Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard was there, and he was in like a cast, and it looked like almost like a walker, along with Blake Martinez, who's probably not going to be back with the team either. Now, my thinking when I saw the video was probably the reason they're there is because both of them are rehabbing injuries. So maybe that's the reason that Shepard and Martinez were there, because they're at the facility rehabbing their injuries. But I felt bad for Shepard because he looked like he was really excited for Daboll. He was, he was hugging him, and I was like, oh man, Shepard's probably not going to be back with the New York Giants next year. So I felt bad for them as well. But I think they're probably at the facility rehabbing injuries. Alvaro, 1 second. He says, Chris, will you miss Tom Brady? Yeah, let's talk about Tom Brady briefly. I think Brady's going to retire first off. I know that's like kind of still up in the air of whether or not Tom Brady's going to come back because he came out and said that he's not officially retiring. I think Brady's going to retire. And listen, I'm not the biggest Brady fan in the world. I'll be the first to say it, but I respect the hell out of him. The guy's a competitor. The guy was a 6th-round pick, and he went from nothing to the GOAT. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. You can't argue against it. The guy's won 7 Super Bowls. He's been to 10. And he did it with 2 different organizations. He won with the Patriots. He won with the Bucs. The ultimate competitor, kept himself in shape up to the age of, 44, 45 years old. And it will be weird watching an NFL season without Tom Brady. I mean, basically, since I've been watching football, Tom Brady's been there. I watched a little bit before he was a quarterback, but the majority of my football viewing experience on this world, Tom Brady's been in the NFL. So it's going to be weird not having Tom Brady out there under center for an NFL season. So it'll be weird for sure. I wish him nothing but the best, but I was never the biggest Brady fan. I know a lot, like there's definitely some people that are absolutely in love with Tom Brady. That's not me. But I give him his respect. The guy's an incredible player. Quest says, I just want some attention. Well, there you go. There's your attention. Harrison says he's not the GOAT. Listen, man, that's just, I used to fight it. I used to fight Brady's not the GOAT because I understand the people who say he's not the GOAT because I used to be one of those people because you base it based off of talent and you say to yourself, well, if Dan Marino had what Brady had with the Patriots, he could probably do the same thing. If Aaron Rodgers, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the guy's been to 10 Super Bowls. He's won 7. He's not the most talented quarterback of all time. I don't think anybody would dispute that. But here's what I'll ask you. As talented as Pat Mahomes is, and Pat Mahomes is as talented as they come, does Tom Brady blow that lead yesterday? I don't think he does. If anything, Tom Brady would have been the guy that makes the comeback. So I think in the end, Brady's the GOAT. I think it's deservedly so. I don't think he's the most talented. I don't think he's the GOAT, like the best of all time, I guess. But I think he's the GOAT. I think he's the greatest quarterback of all time. Yeah, Brady's definitely the most accomplished. Yeah, Brady definitely keeps that lead. No, I still watch the Knicks, Jason. I still watch the Knicks. And I may call the game tonight. People have been asking me. I may call the game tonight. Rel, man, thank you very much. He says, I'm loving this. Hashtag New York Giants. What's going on, Rel, man? Yeah, I like the new coach and GM as well. It's a new beginning, and hopefully they get us off on the right foot, man. I'm enjoying talking to you guys. By the way, I try to say it throughout the stream. Thank you to everybody for being here. I just try to keep up with the chat. Thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you guys for all the support. It's going to be a really fun offseason on the channel talking about the Giants. Really looking forward to the direction of this football team. But thank you guys for all the support. Thank you guys for being here. Isaac says, Tom Brady blew a 21-3 lead. So that's true. He did. I forgot about that game. That's fair against Peyton Manning, which was ironic because usually Peyton Manning was the guy that blew the leads. But in that game, you're right. Brady did come up short. He did have one blip on his radar. But more often than not, in the big moments, Brady came up big. Esar says, I have a feeling Giants will go Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. I haven't looked a ton into the wide receiver prospects, if I'm being honest with you, because I don't think we're taking a wide receiver early. I think we could take a wide receiver. I don't think we'll take a wide receiver early. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't looked a ton into the wide receivers. It's in particular the first round wide receivers. And I don't know if that's where he's being mocked. I will look more into them because I do think in like the third round area, that's probably where we'll start to look at wide receivers. But I'd be shocked. And I'm looking right now. I don't know. I just looked up Garrett Wilson. This guy has him graded as a late first round pick, early second round pick. So is it possible we could take him in the second? Maybe, but certainly not going to take a wide receiver in the first. Let's see. MJ mentality, but bailed out by the other 50% of the team all the time. Well, I mean, that's why, like, when people ask me, and again, this is just like opinion based. When people ask me who's the greatest athlete in your lifetime, a lot of times people will bring up Tom Brady. And I don't think he is, but it's not like a slight on Tom Brady. It's because football is the ultimate team game. Like in basketball, it's such an independent sport. Like you just said, Brady's not out there half the time. The defense, right? So that's why I never say he's the greatest of all time. And I think it's because he falls victim to the sport he plays in, not to mention the quarterback's very dependent around with all the variables, so on and so forth. For me, it's Michael Jordan in my lifetime, or Wayne Gretzky in the four major sports. I'm not a big hockey fan, but Gretzky was like super dominant. DB says, glad I didn't hear right there in the presser. Yeah. right there. But it would probably be Gretzky, actually, is probably, even though I'm not, like, when you look at his like statistical accomplishments, again, I don't watch hockey. But when you look at his statistical accomplishments, like, you have to respect it. The guy, I think there's been 5 200-point seasons in the history of the NHL. 4 of them belong to him. I think Mario Lemieux's the other. And, like, nobody else is close. Like, Gretzky was so dominant. It's either Gretzky or Jordan in the four major sports. JD, thank you very much, man. He says, 5 and 7, I don't care, Hogs. JD, man, glad to see you, man. And, I got to get you on the channel, man. We got to talk some Giants. We've talked Knicks before. I got to get you on the channel. We got to talk some Giants because I know you and me, we think alike when it comes to building a football team. So I'm glad to see that you're here, man. You're a big Hog guy as well, and I'll be happy, man. Let's go. Wilbert, who are you looking out for in the Senior Bowl? Well, obviously the guys that most people are going to be looking at are the quarterbacks, because all the top quarterbacks are playing in the Senior Bowl. I mean, I'm going to be looking at linemen. That's what my primary focus is going to be on. I'm going to be looking at linemen, edge rushers. I want to, obviously I'm not there. Like, Bobby and Justin got to go there, which is awesome. I was going to go, ended up not being able to go. But that's like the reports I'm interested in hearing about is the linemen, the edge rushers, maybe the middle linebackers, but particularly the linemen. That's what I'm most interested in. Esar says, but obviously, like, what's going to get the most press is going to be the quarterbacks because most of the top quarterbacks are there. Esar says, felt like a new breath of air. Can't hear Hog Molly. Yeah, like I said, man, we got to come up with a new term because I know, like, the Hogs. Yeah, I just love saying the Hogs. It's nothing to do with Gettleman. I love the term, but we might have to retire because I know it brings back Dave Gettleman vibes for you guys. Yeah, any news, any like significant news, Slammer, related to the Giants that comes out with the Senior Bowl, I'll definitely have a video on it. Like who they scouted, who they interviewed. I'll definitely have a video out on it as we get to know some of these prospects. Because a lot of times that'll tilt your hand in terms of who they may be interested in, right, in the later rounds. Kyle says, I feel Daboll's personality is a good fit for New York. Seems like a personable guy that is passionate about football. Time will tell, though. Yeah, he seems like he's going to deal with the media well. I'll put it that way. Like, to me, here's what I'll say. When I was watching the press conference, and I'm not some people are going to take this the wrong way. To me, he came across like a more respectable Dave Gettleman in the press conference. Dave Gettleman, when he would have the press conference, came across as a jerk, but he also came across as almost like a guy that was like shooting the shit at a bar. Like he was like, nothing was like calculated. Like he just said what he wanted to say. I got that from Daboll, but in a respectable manner, if that makes sense. It wasn't like like with Judge, you felt like he like prepared what he was going to say for like 3 months before he went up on the stage. And even during that 11-minute tirade, the rant that he went on, he knew he was going to say that before he said it. Daboll, it felt like it was off the cuff. So I almost got like a much better version of Dave Gettleman, like respectable, like he wasn't like a jerk to the media, but he was just saying what was coming to him at the top of his head, which I appreciated. Let's see. Pete says Daboll calls them the boulders. Maybe we're gonna have to start calling them. Maybe we're gonna have to start calling them the boulders then. And Anthony says, let's see. And maybe we'll have to start calling them the boulders. That might work. All right, we'll call them the boulders. I like Hogs better, but Anthony says, bottom line, Eli 2, Tom 0. No GOAT by Giants standards. That's right, my man. Eli beat him, man. At the end of the day, Eli got it done. Eli's my GOAT. And Selmo says, GM said he is planning to clear about $40 million in cap space. Some interview. Who do you think will go? Yeah, somebody asked me that earlier. I mean, the obvious names, and it might not all be due to cuts. It might it might be restructuring too, right? So it might not all be cuts, but the obvious names are Bradbury and Martinez. That's going to clear up the most space. Rudolph is an obvious cut as well. That's $5 million, and Dixon's another $3 million. So that's $8 million. So that's almost 25% of the 40. But just Martinez and Bradbury alone would be 20. If you cut both, that'd be half of that 40. And Shepard's going to be cut. That's $4.5 million. So just Shepard, Rudolph, and Dixon's about $12.5 million. And Martinez and Bradbury would almost get you there. That'd be 32.5 if you were to cut both of those players. But some of it may have to do with restructuring contracts, things of that nature. Keep Bradbury until I don't think you're gonna be able to trade Bradbury and I don't think Bradbury's a bad player. I think Bradbury played well for the Giants in the second half, but I don't think you're gonna get much for Bradbury. I mean, you might be able to get something for him. But with his salary and the fact that he's not like an elite corner and he's gonna be a free agent the following year and he's 30, 31, I don't think you'd get a ton for him. No nicknames. How about just offensive lineman? Tyrone, maybe we'll just go with that. We'll just go with lineman. Do you think we can restructure Shep? No. I love Shep, okay? And I know he's a fan favorite because he's a favorite of mine. I love the way the guy plays. I think the guy was dealt a bad hand. We talk about how Jones was dealt a bad hand. Shep's been dealt a bad hand too. And he's had a lot of bad luck. He's had injuries. He's had concussions. And he seems like a great guy, team first guy. Anytime the New York Giants score a touchdown, he's the first guy on the bench congratulating everybody. He seems that he loves playing for the New York Giants. I can't keep Shepard. I can't. I mean, the guy's not going to play all of next year probably, and if he is, he's not going to be back until later in the season. His injury was, sustained later in the year, and he saves $4.5 million if you cut him. The guy's a walking injury. He's not going to be in the long-term plans of this football team, and at the end of the day, wide receiver is a very replaceable position. You could find receivers in the later portion of a lot of these drafts. You look at Gabriel Davis, a guy the Bills drafted in the 4th round just a couple of years ago. So I don't think Shepard will be kept. I don't. Irish Rover says from Taco Nacho Chris, check what I added you on Twitter. Big news on Patrick Graham. Okay, let me take a quick look. I mean, I already know about Patrick Graham, the rumors that came out today, that he's probably coming back. But let me take a quick look. Let's see. Hearing that Graham will meet with the Vikings again for head coach. Vikes don't appear in on Harbaugh. Might have to hold on Patrick staying in New York. That's from Giants Insider newspaper and podcast. That's interesting. So he's getting a second interview. Now, I don't know if that's due to the Rooney Rule. I don't know. Maybe because I know that you have to have I know that you have to have one in-person interview. That's the way the rule works with a minority candidate. I don't know if they've already had that. If they have already had that, then maybe they do have very serious consideration of bringing Graham in. And if they do hire Patrick Graham, best of luck. I'm not going to flip out. I think that there's a lot of great candidates out there, specifically as defensive coordinators that the New York Giants could bring in. But best of luck. I hope he gets the job. I hope he does a great job. Patrick Graham to me always seemed like a really good guy, smart guy, nice guy. I'd be happy if he's back. But if he gets a head coaching job, best of luck, man. Dominic says, any chance we fix the god-awful turf? I think it needs to be a priority for sure. I think it needs to be a priority for sure. And I think Shane hinted at that in the press conference. And I think it's something we'll at least entertain looking at for sure. Danny Dimes, thank you for being a member for 11 months. What tight end could we get in the draft? People have talked about this as well. I'm going to start doing a lot more research on the tight ends because I do think that's something that we could take in like the third round. But some of the tight ends that people have mentioned to me, Jake Ferguson's been a really popular name. I don't know where he's going, but that's one guy that people have definitely pointed out to me. I'm trying to look at a list of the tight ends right now, but Ferguson's been a name a lot of people brought up to me. I don't know where he's going to go. Trey McBride. I think Ferguson's going to be at the Senior Bowl too, if I'm not mistaken. I think somebody told me that. So maybe that's another guy I'll have my eye out on. I think there's going to be a lot of good tight ends from what Justin told me when he was on the channel. Ferguson's ranked 5th at the tight end. So maybe that's a guy you keep an eye on. Maybe he's a third round target for the Giants potentially. Trey McBride, that's been another really popular name people have brought to me. He's 3rd ranked on this list. So maybe Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson. I don't know where these guys are being mocked. Like I said, I'll have to look more into them, but I do think we're going to draft the tight end, and I think it'll probably be in the 3rd round because we have 2 third-round picks. So I think it'll probably be in the 3rd round, maybe the 4th, but I think it'll probably be in the 3rd round. Carlos, man, what's up, buddy? He says, just bought an 85-inch TV to watch my man Odell win the Super Bowl this year. Once a Giant, always a Giant. By the way, 5 and 7 better be offensive linemen or else. Well, hopefully you enjoy that TV, and hopefully for you, Odell Beckham gets a Super Bowl win. I appreciate you for being here. I'm not going to have that or else. That's what I want, but I'm not going to have that or else. I do recognize there's other paths they could go. What I will say is bet at least one or else. You better at least give me a tackle with one of those 2 picks. And another, if they don't take 2 with those first 2 picks, I would definitely prefer you at least take 1 in the 2nd. I'll be very happy on draft night if you take 1 in the 1st, 1 in the 2nd. I won't cry if you don't take 1 in the 2nd. Got to take 1 in the 3rd if you don't, but definitely need to take at least 1 lineman with one of those first 2 picks. Have to. Don't disrespect who said something about the G-Men. Jeremy Ruker, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'll look into him as well. Amazing guy. Tom Ty. Tana plus Tristan is like LT plus Carl Banks. I appreciate it. I like Patricia Traina. She's really nice. Like, since I've been on YouTube, I don't like push for that. Like, I don't, maybe I should. I don't like push to pressure people to work with me, or, if people ask me, I'm always open to it. And, yeah, she reached out to me and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Member of the media wants to have me on her channel and work with me. She's really nice. I got an opportunity to talk to her after the show. She's nice. And she said, and I don't know if this is going to happen, so don't take it, take it with a grain of salt. But she said that the company, I think she works for Sports Illustrated. She said that if they increase their budget, whatever that means, she's going to ask me to do a podcast on her platform. So that'd be cool. But Patricia Traina is she's really nice. So it's cool. It's cool that a member of the media reached out to me to work with her. I've listened to Traina when she would do pods with Ed Valentine from Big Blue View. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's what she said. But I don't know if it's going to happen. Vikings is a terrible job right now, but you never know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know a ton about them. I don't think it's a terrible job. They've had a lot of draft picks, and they do have some nice pieces on the offense. I don't think it's a terrible job. I don't know if it's the most desirable one, but I don't think it's a terrible job. I could think of much worse jobs. What's up there, Johnny Timing? Odell was having a Hall of Fame career with us and got injured, and we released him. Yes, that's true. Well, we didn't release him. We traded him. The Vikings are the best team in the NFC North if Rodgers leaves. I would agree with that. And that's why I think it would be a pretty intriguing job, because I was thinking about the NFC yesterday, guys. The NFC is going to be so mediocre next year. Because if you look around the conference right now, how crazy is this? If Tom Brady retires, which I think he's going to, and Aaron Rodgers gets traded to the AFC, which if he gets traded, I would think it would be out of conference. I don't even think it's a debate. I think the NFC East would be the second best division in the conference. The NFC West, obviously the best. But after that, if Tom Brady's not on the Bucs, maybe they're solid, but they're not great. The Saints, not great. Carolina, not great. Falcons, not great. The NFC North, the Packers without Rodgers are not great. The Lions, the Bears, the Vikings. The NFC is going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be the NFC West. Is going to control the conference. But I think the NFC might be the second best division in the NFC next year if those things happen. Let's see. Steve Evans, man, what's going on, man? I like the path we're on. Who do we get for OC and Graham coming? I think it's going to be Dorsey, Steve, especially with some of the with some of the reports that are coming out. I think it's going to be Dorsey at the OC, and then if Graham doesn't get the head coaching job with the Vikings, I think Graham's going to, I know, based on what Daboll said, Graham is going to stay on as the defensive coordinator. But yeah, it's looking like Dorsey and Graham, provided Patrick Graham doesn't get a head coaching job. The AFC is like crazy, though. And we talked about this on my stream the other day. You look at the best young quarterbacks in the league right now, they're all in the AFC. All of them. Outside of Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray, and I know people love Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray's got talent. But Kyler Murray is not on the level of the top four in the AFC. The AFC has all the talent at the quarterback position. All of it. Which is good for the Giants. Thoughts on the Dolphins' job? They're the most capped, strong, young, superstar wide receiver and young pieces on defense. Yeah, that's definitely an attractive job. And that speaks volumes, by the way, Chris. And I don't know how accurate the rumors were. But if it's true, what people said about the Dolphins' interest in Brian Daboll, that speaks volumes about Joe Schoen, right? Because Brian Daboll potentially could have very well taken that Miami Dolphins job. He had the attachments to Tua Tagovailoa. They brought him in for at least one, if not two interviews. And then it seemed like once the Giants committed to Daboll, then the report started coming out that the Dolphins were going to start like extending the coaching search. So I think all along Daboll was their guy. That's just my guess, which makes sense due to his attachments to Tua, and they want to bring in a guy that could, start getting their quarterback going in the right direction. It speaks volumes to how strong he feels about Joe Schoen and this New York Giants football team. Entertainment, do you think at the league meetings this year, do you think they will discuss the overtime rule? That's a good question. A lot of people have brought that up because there's been a lot of games that have gone to overtime in these playoffs. And if you win the coin toss, obviously the chances of you winning the football game are dramatically higher than if you don't. And that doesn't necessarily seem like the fairest way to conclude a playoff contest. Yes, I think it'll be talked about. I don't know if it'll be changed, but I think it'll be talked about. I think what I would do if I was the owner of the NFL, if it was my decision, I think I would keep the regular season rules the same. The reason I say that is because you don't want those regular season games. I mean, it's like a ridiculously violent sport to begin with, and the fact that you want to keep these games all within a certain time frame. Like you'd prefer these games to end by 4:15, 4:30 before the 4 o'clock games. So I think what I would do, I would keep the overtime rules for the regular season the same, but the postseason, I think I would change them. That is what I think I would do. I think I would change the postseason rules where both teams, no matter what, have an opportunity to get the football. But I think I'd keep the regular season rules the same. Christian says, Judge's staff without Judge must feel sick. Yeah, yeah, because they may keep Jerome Henderson as well. Like I said, I saw the New York Giants were talking to him too, so it looks like they're going to at least keep portions of his staff. Irish Rover says, I am happy for OBJ. And he I hope he plays well and showcases his talent. I was sorry we moved on from him. I love the skills, the desire to win. Listen, I'm going to tip my cap to OBJ, and I'm not the biggest OBJ fan in the world. OBJ looked really good yesterday. And yeah, I got no ill will towards him. I hope he does well. I hope he wins a Super Bowl. I mean, I'll probably root for the Bengals, but it has nothing to do with OBJ. There are so few overtime games. This is really not a big topic. See, Joe, I disagree. I mean, yes, I understand that there's so few overtime games, but the two most important games got decided in overtime, the AFC Championship game and the AFC Divisional game. So I do think it's a topic that should be talked about. And this has been changed in the past. I remember people used to complain about the old overtime rules when a team, you could decide whether or not a team advances in the playoffs based off of just kicking a field goal. They changed it. I do think it should be changed. I do think it's a good topic to talk about. What's your dream offseason for the Giants? What do you want the staff and possible O-line to look at? And let's hope for Fangio for DC. I think Graham's going to be the DC unless he gets the head coaching job. But, I mean, my dream offseason is addressing the line as much as they possibly can. And, I mean, it may sound boring. Like some people's dream offseason is going to be clear up as much cap space as you can, get the best available free agent at this position, get the best available free agent at this position. But my dream offseason is boring. My dream offseason is as boring as it gets. I don't want you to spend this offseason. I want you to let the players go. I want you to accrue draft capital for the 2023 draft by getting compensation picks. And I want you to focus strongly on the offensive line. If the New York Giants come out of this draft with two legitimate starters on that line to go along with Andrew Thomas, get yourself a defensive playmaker, whether it be an edge or a linebacker in the draft, I'll be happy. I'll be happy. I don't want them to spend crazy in free agency. I want them to start thinking long-term and start building this team up from the ground up. That's my dream offseason. And I think they're going to do something along those lines. Orphanage DeGrom. He says, Jeremy Ruck rhymes with and like Ertz without the Z is a tight end from OSU and actually from Lindenhurst, Long Island. As a Jets fan, he's a great pick. Yeah, I'm definitely going to look more into these tight ends because, like I said, I do think we're going to be taking one in like the third or fourth round area. It only makes sense. We're going to be moving on from Rudolph and Ingram. That's cool that he's from Long Island, though. Let's see. Tom says, should the Giants carry three? No, they shouldn't. I don't think. Now the Giants have done that in the past. They've carried three quarterbacks in the past, but I mean, at the end of the day, Tom, like if you get and when they carried three when they had Daniel Jones at the beginning. And I suppose that made sense because you wanted him to soak up as much knowledge as he possibly could. And maybe they wanted a quarterback to talk with him during the games and whatever, in the upbringing of Daniel Jones. But the way I look at it is if you're down to your third string quarterback, does it really matter at that point? Like we saw it this year. Like usually if you're down to your backup quarterback, you're screwed, let alone your third string. So me personally, no. I prefer to use that roster spot on something else, especially if you bring Daniel Jones back. If you bring in a rookie, maybe it makes more sense to go with three. Who knows? But no, I'd rather carry two quarterbacks. McLovin, OBJ cost us that playoff game in 2016, so I'm glad he's gone. Great talent, though. He was part of it. I'm not going to put the full responsibility on him, but that was one of his worst games as a pro against the Packers. He dropped a number of balls in that game. He was definitely part of the reason why we lost. Let's see. Kenny Pickett skipped hand measurements at the sheet. Did he? Kenny Pickett's hands apparently are 8 inches. So that'd probably be why he skipped hand measurements. Wow, man. And that's gonna be a topic of conversation for Pickett. Bills fan here, you guys will be fine. No splash free agents. You will fill holes and then draft BPA. Tony, man, I appreciate that, man. And we appreciate the coaches you brought aboard. And I think that's the approach we need to take. And I need to go back and find the video, Tony. And I keep referencing it. I'm going to find the video so I can show it to you guys. Because I think it was like 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. It was before Josh Allen took over your football team. I compared the way that you built your football team. And I think it's something that's good to look back at now because now we have a guy that came from Buffalo and they may structure the team a certain way. I compared the way that the Buffalo Bills built their football team to the way the New York Jets built their football team. And I talked about how I wanted at that point in time, the New York Giants to start building their team the way the Buffalo Bills did. The reason I compared the Bills and Jets is because they were in very similar situations at the time. Both of them had just drafted young quarterbacks with Darnold and Allen. Both of them had a very similar cap situation. And the way the Bills built their team was, I loved it. And I remember talking about it in that video extensively. And I hope the New York Giants build their team the same way. But the way the Bills did it, they had a ton of cap space. They had like the same amount the Jets did. They had like $100 million of cap space, whatever it was. And the Jets spent it on Le'Veon Bell. So it was that offseason. They just spent it on Le'Veon Bell and C.J. Mosley. And that was about it. A couple other pieces. The Bills, they spent it on like 3 starting offensive line. Like they spread the money around. They didn't make any long-term commitments. It was all like 3 and 4 year deals. And it was offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. They spread the money around. They did it very smart, the way they built up their football team. So people talk about how the Bills didn't draft any offensive linemen early, even though they did. They took Cody Ford, but it was in the second round, early second round. But their free agency money at the beginning went towards the offensive line. They spent heavily on that line, and they didn't commit to long-term contracts. But Tony, man, thanks for popping in, buddy. Let's see what we got. And we don't have free agency money, so where are we going to do it? In the draft. J-Man J says, if Jones and Barkley return, then they better fix the O-line in the draft. Right now, we need 4 starters. If you're not looking to fix the O-line this offseason, then why have them return? Jones and Barkley return, then they better fix the O-line in the draft. Right now, we need 4 starters. Yeah, I agree. 100%. And I think they will, Jay. Like, we talk about it. Like, at this point, I don't think they have a choice. Like, it's the most obvious thing in the world. Now, they may not do exactly what people want in terms of spending 2 first-round picks on the line, but they're going to have to focus on the line. It's like, it's the most obvious need in the NFL. They're going to do it. NY Giants 26 says, hey, sorry I'm late. Not going to be super excited yet. Love that he drives a truck. He's definitely a hard ass. When's the next Patricia Traina stream? I'm going to have to talk to her. Actually, now that you mention it, she did, after our previous stream, I think she told me once they hire the coach, I'll go on her channel and we'll do something. So I don't know when. I'll wait till she reaches out to me. And NY Giants 26 says, Shane was interesting. Talked about cleaning $40 million in cap. Wonder what he is going to do. I think he will build that the right way. Excited. Yeah, I people have asked me that throughout the stream. I didn't even hear that clip because I guess I missed the beginning of the press conference today. But several people have told me he's going to clear $40 million in cap. You know what I like so far, by the way, about Joe Shane and Brian Daboll? One thing that has been clearly apparent is how forthcoming they've been with their plan. Like, they're telling you right out of the gate, we're doing this, 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 and this. We're going to build a team around Daniel Jones. We're going to do this, 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 and this. We're going to clear up $40 million of cap space. When Joe Judge took the job, not that Joe Judge is a GM, so it's apples and oranges. Do you remember? Do you remember when Joe Judge took the job? Joe Judge didn't even address the players by their names. If I remember correctly, he didn't address the players by their names until like 2 or 3 months in. And he wouldn't commit to Daniel Jones or anybody else, Saquon Barkley, as starters on the football team until like training camp, like August. It's just a completely different feel. Like, I feel like they've been really forthcoming in terms of what they're going to do for this football team. Manny, man, thank you very much, man. Pickett equals Trump hands. Yeah, he's got nobody's seen hands like this before. The best hand. Nobody's seen. I don't even know how to impersonate Trump, but I know he always does this. Nobody's seen hands like this. The best hands ever. Let's see. Nobody sees hands like this. The best hands ever. Appreciate the midday stream. Keep them coming. Should be a fun off season. Manny, man, thank you so much for being here. I remember. I'm just, not that I like to get political, but I remember when Trump was doing his campaigning or whatever, somebody insinuated that he had a small member because of it. I think it was Marco Rubio. And then Trump, his next press conference, starts like pointing to people in the crowd. He says, you see the way I hit a golf ball? He's like, I hit the golf ball long. And then he was like saying, because he hits a golf ball long, that it insinuates that his pecker's not small. It was ridiculous during that time. It just got me thinking. What's going on, Al, man? Thanks for popping in, man. Let's see. I want Ruckert. He's a younger Rudo. I have not looked into him. Chris, I don't know if you already addressed this, but would you trade down for getting more draft? Yes. I think that would be an ideal scenario if we were able to do that. I think that'd be perfect. And a pimp named Slickback, thank you very much. He says, I'll say this. I liked Willis, but I want the next Giants quarterback to be elite. top 5 to 10 talent. I'll wait if it takes us a year, even 2, to get the next guy. I like that you saying that, pimp name Slickback, because I know, and again, I think I just like that you agree with me. Not that not that I'm like trying to force you to agree with me, but I like that you agree with me, because that's my mindset as well. And I know that you're a huge quarterback guy, because a lot of times when I do these live streams, you say like, you hint at least that you think they should take Willis or they should take a quarterback. I'm of the mindset of you never force a quarterback pick, like you just said. That's why I don't even want to sit like. I hint towards like, yeah, if Jones isn't the guy, ideally, I would like them to draft a quarterback in 2023, but I don't know how I'm going to feel. I don't know where we're going to be picking. I don't know how I'm going to feel about the quarterback prospects. So you never want to force a quarterback pick. I think it's the dumbest thing an organization could ever do. There's other options. Stopgap quarterbacks. You sign a free agent. We did it with Kerry Collins for about 4 or 5 years, right? And then he kind of, got us to Eli Manning. So you never want to force a quarterback pick. You want it to be a good marriage. You want to make sure the guy you're drafting, you plan to keep that guy for 15 years, especially if you're taking that guy top 5 in a draft. It's not, oh, let's see if this guy can work for a year or two. If that doesn't work, we're going to draft our next quarterback. If you make that big of a commitment to a player, you better be all in on that guy, because if you're wrong, it sets the franchise back. So I'm all about not forcing a quarterback pick. Let's see what we got. Kenny Pickett is also double jointed. Really? I did not know that. Graham reunites with Dalvin in Minnesota and brings along Judge. We'll see. Joey G says, we can't wait for Graham. Let's get the Ravens D coordinator. I mean, we're going to find out real soon, I think. I would think Minnesota's going to announce their head coach soon. They have to. I mean, you got the Senior Bowl right now. So if they announce, well, I think Minnesota will probably announce their head coach within the next couple of days, if I had to guess. And then if he's not the head coach, Giants will bring him in as the DC. If he is, go out and get Wink Martindale. Go out and get Vic Fangio. There's a lot of good options. And John Mara, you better open the checkbook, because I want the best coaches we could possibly get. Chris, who are free agents we could use the $40 million for? Well, when he says he's going to free up $40 million, that doesn't mean we're going to have $40 million to spend in free agency. Right now, at least according to Spot Track, we have negative 10. So if he frees up $40 million, you're at plus 30. Then 13 to 15 is going towards the draft. You have 2 picks inside the top 7. Each one of those guys are going to make about $5 million. So you're talking, even if you free up $40 million, you're talking about, I don't know, $15 to $17 million that you could spend in free agency, which means you ain't signing anybody. You're going to sign 1-year contracts. It's going to be cost-effective contracts, similar to the offseason we had in 2019 when we signed guys like, we got, what's his name? We got Marcus Golden for a cheap 1-year deal. We got Antoine Bethea for a cheap, 2-year deal. It's going to be, I think it's going to be an offseason like that. And Anthony Raza, thank you so much for being a member for 11 months. Cross and Linderbaum, first round is a must, Chris. Time for the O-line fix once and for all. I hope so. That'd be great, man. I would love it, man. You look like Joe Judge with the water. I'm just thirsty, man. Coffin says, give me Bailey. I hope I pronounced it. I know what you're talking about. The quarterback from Western Kentucky. Zappy. Let him sit a year. If they take quarterback in the 4th round, I'm not, whatever. Okay. I'm okay with that. Worst case scenario, the guy's backup long term. And there's no financial commitment. So I'd be okay with that. He threw 53 touchdowns or something ridiculous this year. Obviously at a small school, but I'd be okay with that. Right? I've talked about that in the past. You want to take quarterback 3rd, 4th round, that doesn't prohibit you from drafting a quarterback in the next draft if you like one. So the whole reason why, not the whole reason, a big reason why, because another major reason is I just don't think we're equipped right now to support a quarterback as best we can. And this draft class is not the greatest draft class to begin with. But when I say I don't want to draft a quarterback, it's because if we take quarterback 5th overall, and he doesn't work out because the situation's as bad as it currently is, you can't then go and draft another quarterback next year. That's not the way it works. If you have that much committed to a guy that you draft 5th overall at the quarterback position, we're not drafting a quarterback the following year. People point to the Arizona Cardinals. It's not going to be the same situation. Okay. The Arizona Cardinals changed their head coach. We're not changing our head coach next year. So if we take Malik Willis or if we take whoever, 5th overall, you can't take a quarterback the next year. So it's just not the right year for me. It's not the right year for me to take a quarterback. J-Man J says, love the Bills and Cincy, but they have top-tier quarterbacks. We have Daniel Jones, and until we have that, we can't be too excited. I agree. But what I will say, Jay, and I agree, I think one thing to be excited about, and we'll see, let's get results first, but I think the one thing that you could at least be moderately excited about is I think Giants fans now have the feeling that we potentially have a coaching staff that can get the most out of a quarterback. And that's a big part of it. That's a big part of why quarterbacks succeed and fail. I understand we need we would love to have a Pat Mahomes, whoever. But a big part of why these quarterbacks succeed is because of the environment that they're put in. And I think that's why a lot of Giants fans are optimistic about the hiring of Brian Daboll and the future progress of this football team. Connor says, I'm so happy we brought back Patrick Graham. It's not official yet. He still may get the head coaching job with Minnesota. But yes, it sounds like if he doesn't get that job, he will be back with the New York Giants. And I'm completely on board with it. I'm fine with it. I'm completely on board with it. NY Giants 26 says, I'd be interested in bringing Pep, Zoe, and Evan Ingram back for cheap. No, Ingram hasn't lived up to the potential. Coach, you could change that. Daboll, like I just said, even if we freed up $40 million, you got $17 million to spend. Those guys aren't coming back. I'd rather have comp picks, honestly. I'd rather have comp. Like, what? Let me ask the chat. What would you rather have? What would you rather have? Because a couple of people have brought up Jabril Peppers. What would you rather have? Let's say Peppers gets a $13 million contract. I think that's fair. That's not record-breaking salary for a safety, but it's a good salary. Let's say Peppers gets an average $13 million a year contract at the safety position for 3 years, 4 years, 3 years. $39 million, $13 million a year. What would you rather have? A $13 million commitment at the safety position for Jabril Peppers that cuts into your $200 million cap, or letting him walk and getting a free draft pick? You take the 4th round comp pick every time. I don't want Peppers back. I don't want Ingram back. I don't want Hernandez back. I want them all gone. I want the comp picks, and I want to start building this team through the draft. I don't want to start dedicating cap space to these guys long term. I want this new regime to be able to bring in the players that they want, let them go, get the comp picks. Let's see what we got. NY Giants 26, man, thank you very much. Daboll using Kadarius Toney would be great. Got to stay healthy. Yeah, I said that earlier. I think that out of all the players that are going to benefit the most in terms of the skill positions, it'll probably be him. The other guy that I'm really excited about, and now Toney, I think there's more of a reason to be excited about because he's going to be here long term. I don't think Barkley will be, but I am excited to see how they utilize Barkley in this offense next year, with a better offensive line and just a more innovative play caller. I am excited to see how they utilize Saquon Barkley in this offense next year. And if you're a Giant fan, regardless of how you feel about Saquon Barkley, because I know like a lot of Giants fans had venom towards Saquon Barkley because he was drafted 2nd overall, because the guy dances, people say, and they don't view him as a guy that they want here long term, which I happen to agree with, and I love Saquon Barkley. Regardless of how you feel about the guy, you should be praying next year that Saquon Barkley is the best running back in football, because that is going to up his trade value. Okay? And I think Joe Shane is going to be smart enough to know he's not going to extend Saquon Barkley. If Saquon could go out there and play really well next year, maybe the Giants get a high draft pick for him. So that's my mindset on Saquon. And I'm excited to see how Barkley plays next year in this offense and how they utilize him. Who said Kenny Golladay sucks? I don't think anybody thinks Kenny Golladay sucks. They just don't think he's worth the contract. I don't think anybody thinks Kenny Golladay sucks. Just a bad contract. Vasily says, hey, Chris, what's going on, my man? What's your thoughts on Daboll calling plays or not? I don't really care whether he calls the plays or not, because I know he's going to have a heavy influence on the offense regardless. So, like, somebody asked me that earlier. Like, that doesn't bother me. Like, whether he calls the plays or not. I mean, Pat Shurmur called the plays, and he was a good play caller. But I remember at some points people thought that Pat Shurmur should no longer call the plays. Like, to me, let him designate who should do what. And if he feels Ken Dorsey, if he's going to be the OC, should call the plays, I know Daboll's going to have his fingerprints all over the offense. So whatever. And if he feels Dorsey's not doing a good job, then maybe maybe he takes over the duties. But it doesn't bother me at all. Yeah, I don't think Golladay sucks. I think Golladay got put into a really bad situation, and I don't feel bad for him. The guy got $18 million a year. I don't feel bad for him. Yeah, I just think people feel like it was a bad contract. It's kind of like trying to compare it to somebody else on the Giants. Not Solder, because Solder sucked. Trying to compare it to somebody else on the Giants that was pretty good but wasn't worth the money. J-Man J says, much of the problems with Jones have little to do with coaching, poor pocket awareness, poor accuracy on short routes, injury-prone turnovers. That's certainly part of it, J-Man J. I think, like, people that believe in Jones or believe that, or maybe they don't believe in him but are still willing to give him an opportunity to see if he could progress, I think that they feel like if the other areas around him are improved, those things could improve as well. I'm not saying they're right. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But I think that's their mindset. If the offensive line improves, if the play caller improves, and they structure an offense around his strengths, I think that's their mindset. I'm not saying I agree with necessarily all of it. I do think, though, in my heart of hearts, I do think Dan Jones will be a better player next year for the Giants. Doesn't mean he's going to be good enough long term. Kid called Chris says, what's up, Dana? Do we get a comp pick for Dalvin Tomlinson? If so, no, we don't. The reason we don't get a comp pick for Dalvin Tomlinson is because we sign heavily in free agency. So, like, that's why I say, because when you sign heavily in free agency, it negates the contract, which last year, whatever, I understand it. But this offseason, when we don't have any cap space, I don't want to offset those comp picks. Let the guys walk, sign cheap one-year deals, make sure you get those 3 or 4 comp picks in the next draft, so you can continue to, build more and more draft capital. But yeah, the way it works is because we signed Kenny Golladay and Adoree Jackson, we're not going to be entitled to that comp pick. Coffin says Saquon Barkley is 233 but runs like Reggie Bush. Kadarius Toney is Mr. Glass. I can't disagree with that. And I understand that that's why fans are not the biggest fans of Saquon Barkley. Certain fans. Saquon deserves the same apology DJ got from Mara. I agree. I tend to agree more with you, Wilbert. Overall, I think a big reason why people dislike Barkley, I understand the running style. People get on him for that. But to be fair, he was coming off an ACL tear. I didn't expect him to be vintage Saquon Barkley this year. Most people thought it would take more than a year. I think the biggest reason is because he was a second overall pick, but that's Gettleman's fault. That's not Barkley's fault. That's the way I look at it. And yeah, I don't think Barkley's had much to work with, much like Jones. Connor says, PFF new mock draft has us taking Kayvon Thibodeau. Would you see something like that happen? No. Well, I won't say no. I don't think it's going to happen. Anything could happen. We don't know how these players are going to move up and down throughout this draft process. So let's see the combine. Let's hear the rumors of who these teams are interested in. Maybe one drops. But what I'll say is this, Connor. If any one of the top 4 teams feels Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson are game-changing edge rushers, which I can't speak for them. I don't know. They're not getting to us. That is such an important position. I mean, so if they feel they're game changers, they're not getting to us, in my opinion. Unless, multiple quarterbacks go ahead of us. I'd be surprised if either one get to us. MD says, I know some people will ride or die with Jones, but the guy's that not good enough. I saw him play last night as the 49ers quarterback. He's another Chris says Ben Jones, Titan center, would be a solid free agent pickup. Bobby Hart played well in Buffalo. Could be another. Yeah, vintage skills. Players like that. I do think we're going to sign one offensive lineman, but I think it's going to be like something like that, what you just said. I think it's going to be like a a temporary stopgap. Like it's going to be like when we signed Mike Remmers. Like Mike Remmers was a temporary stopgap at the right tackle position. Or when we signed what's his name? The guy that we had when Nate Solder went down. We signed why is the name escape me right now? But him. He was a swing tackle. I think it'll be something I think we're gonna do something like that, but probably at the guard position. I think an interior offensive lineman will sign a stopgap on like a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, cheap money. I don't think we're gonna. Obviously, we don't have a ton to spend, but I do think we will sign one line. We just have too many holes. Like you're not gonna be able to fill all of them in the draft. So I think they'll get like a stopgap guard. Yeah, Cam Fleming. There you go, Cam Fleming. Yep, Jamon Brown as well. He was a midseason acquisition, but Jamon Brown as well. But yeah, Cam Fleming. That was it. Yep. I think we'll do something like that, but at the guard spot. Like it'll be like a 1-year, $5 million, $6 million contract. We'll sign like a stopgap interior offensive lineman. Let's see. Yo, Chris, Vikings already met the Rooney Rule requirement. Okay, I didn't know that. With the D'Amico Ryans, they have legitimate interest. Also note that Graham was the first guy who the new GM requested to interview. I hope I like Patrick Graham, so I'm not gonna be. I will not be upset if we bring him back as the defensive coordinator. But at the same time, I don't think it's like groundbreaking if we lose him. I think there's a lot of really good defensive coordinator possibilities out there. So if he doesn't get the job, I'll be happy. I'm completely fine with him coming back with the Giants. But if he gets the job, I'll be happy for him. I think Patrick Graham's a really good guy. He seems like a good guy. I don't know him on a personal level, but he seems like a good guy. Seems like a really smart guy. So I'll be happy for him, and I hope he does a great job. So best of luck to him. Do I think Jimmy? Yes. Not even that I think. I know Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out. There's no yes. And that's not even a slight on Garoppolo. I do think Garoppolo is a solid starting quarterback. I don't think he's an incredible starting quarterback. He's kind of like in the same. I know the statistics don't suggest it, but I put all these guys in the same grouping. I put Garoppolo in the same grouping as like Kirk Cousins. Like he's good enough to start for a couple of years, but he's not a guy that you want. He's not a guy that you want being your starter long term. And I that's the way I think the 49ers looked at him. They gave up 3 first-round picks to get Trey Lance. Garoppolo's gone. Trey Lance is going to be the starter next year. And I think Trey Lance is going to be – and no, Jimmy G is not going to be a backup. I'm telling you right now, Jimmy G is going to get a starting job, and the 49ers are going to trade Jimmy G. He'll get a job somewhere. But I think I forgot where I was going to go with that. Oh, Trey Lance. I remember I did some research on Trey Lance because I always like to look at the quarterbacks in the drafts. I loved Trey Lance as a prospect. Not quite Josh Allen. I don't think he has quite that physical, the ceiling quite as high as Josh Allen, but pretty similar. Like I'm a big fan of Trey Lance, and Trey Lance to me is the type of quarterback that I would love the New York Giants to draft. And with the coaching in San Francisco, with a Kyle Shanahan-led offense and the surrounding parts there, I think Trey Lance is going to be dynamic next year for the San Francisco 49ers. Chris, check Dan Graziano. Let me take a quick look. Let me see. Dan Graziano. First source, Raiders wide receiver coach Edgar Bennett will interview with the Bills. I don't think that's what you're talking about. I don't see anything from Dan Graziano. Oh, that's what you're talking about. He's interviewing for the offensive coordinator job, which would insinuate that we're probably going to end up with Ken Dorsey. Yeah, somebody said that earlier. I saw that. Oh no, it wasn't. I can't remember if it was Edgar Bennett. It was a wide receiver coach. So yeah, it looks like the Bills are looking at other potential coordinators. So leads me to believe that Dorsey's probably going to be a Giant. What's up there, Chase, man? Thanks for popping in. R0. What's up, buddy, man? Good to see you, man. He says, wasn't Daboll working with Jimmy Garoppolo? We could bring him in to compete with Daniel Jones. See that, but I don't. The reason I don't see Garoppolo as a potential fit to bring in with Daniel Jones is I think somebody's going to trade for Garoppolo. I don't think the 49ers are going to cut Garoppolo, and the Giants can't take on a $27 million salary. Like, somebody's going to trade for Garoppolo. They'll get something for him. So I don't see that. I don't see that being a possibility. J-Man says, I want the Giants to go back to a 4-3 base. So if losing Graham means that happens, I'm all for it. And I think we have the personnel to switch over. Regardless of whether or not we have the personnel to switch over or not, I don't think it should prohibit the New York Giants from switching over if they feel like they want to switch over, because this isn't about 1 year. It's about building something long-term. But like Justin said when I had him on the channel, most NFL defenses nowadays are not strictly one formation. Like, it's multifaceted. But most teams don't run strictly a 4-3 or strictly a 3-4. You want guys that are versatile. You want guys that can do multiple things. I think Tyrod Taylor makes sense. I think that one makes sense. The two guys that makes the most sense to me, one of them is Tyrod Taylor. The other is Mitch Trubisky. Those two make the most sense to me. So, because of, like you said, the Bills' routes, the Bills' roots, rather, and both of them have it. More so Trubisky to me has a similar skill set to Jones, but both of them would be fine backups and solid backups. Chris, can you answer the second part of what I said about us using KT like Debo? I answered that earlier. I guess you didn't ask it. I think we need to be more creative with Tony, and I said that on Twitter when I was watching the 49ers a couple of weeks ago, but I don't think we could use them in an identical fashion because Debo's built like a tank. Like, I don't think Tony could take that kind of beating, but I do think they need to be more creative with Tony in the running game, end arounds, things of that nature. But you look at Debo. I mean, Debo just trucks guys. They use him like as a legitimate running back. I don't think Tony could be used in the same way. They could. I mean, R0, you're right. They could keep Fromm. Obviously, the Bills drafted Fromm. Do you want Fromm to be the backup? I don't. I would rather. I think, Rob, that we would stand a better chance at having a good backup. What do we got? We got 926 people in this chat. I think we would stand a better chance at finding a good backup for Daniel Jones if I had a tryout for the 926 people in this chat. One of them would probably be better than Jake Fromm. That to me, and I know that we were like desperate as a fan base when when we were looking for something to root about at the end of the year. Jake Fromm is trash. I want nothing to do with Jake Fromm. Yeah, you got it. You got it, a kid called Chris, man. Wilbur says, I got it kind of too. I wonder what we were going to do with cuts trades. Joe said they want to free up $40 million. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. I think it's pretty obvious. Like, when you look at when you look at our current salary cap, we've talked about this before, but I think the Rudolph, there's about $15 million with back end cuts. Guys like Rudolph, guys like Dixon, Shepard, and smaller cuts. Maybe even like 18 with that. And then the two big guys are Martinez and Bradbury. And obviously you could potentially restructure players, but I think that's what you're looking at. Art Stapleton. A lot of people saying Art Stapleton. Let me take a quick look. It was also interesting to hear Giants GM Joe say today that Kevin Abrams was essentially offered to give up the assistant GM title if necessary to bring someone on board from elsewhere. Well, that's good. So basically, well, that's friggin' awesome. So basically, Kevin Abrams will stay on with the Giants, I'm assuming, based off of this, but he's willing to relinquish power. He's willing to be like, yeah, I'll just be a salary cap specialist. And if you want to bring in a guy that you feel is better equipped to be an assistant general manager, I'm fine with that. Or I don't know if he offered that or Mara offered that, whatever. But it sounds like maybe they will bring in a guy that he'd just be the cap guy, which is what he's been in the past before he became the assistant GM. So that's good. That's good news. Lloyd says Abrams also got us in this mess with Gettleman. Yeah, I agree. I would much prefer somebody else as the assistant GM. Report Judge will be hired as the janitor. I'm curious to see what Judge is going to get a job. I'm curious to see. I'm not saying a head coaching job, but he's going to get a job. I'm curious to see where Judge ends up. Now, if I was Judge, I mean, he's getting paid $15 million over the next 3 years to sit at home and eat pizza and drink beers. I don't know. I don't know if I would sign on somewhere to be a special teams coach. I don't know. Sean, man, thank you for being here, buddy, man. I appreciate it. Yes, I think Tom Brady's going to retire. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. I'm going to close this out in 3:50? We've been live for a while. These fly by, man. It's so much fun always talking to you guys. I'm going to close this out in probably about 15 minutes, but I appreciate all you guys, man, for being here. Always love talking with you guys. And anytime I have an opportunity to go live and talk about something, I try to do it. I don't try to overdo these just because it could get redundant. But, when there's a topic worth talking about, I plan on going live during the offseason. Definitely going to go live during the combine at least once. Probably go live once we announce the coordinators, go live, talk with you guys about that. We're going to be doing mock drafts as the draft, gets much closer. Free agency, we'll go live for that again, even though it won't be as eventful as it was last year. There's still going to be some signings the Giants make. So I always love talking football with you guys. Chris, could you do the Knicks game? I may. Here's what I'll say. I'll make a promise. I'll be doing some Knicks games in the coming days. I don't know if I'll do one today. If I don't do the game today, I'll definitely do the next one. For sure. MLG Giants 26 says, how long did we sign Shane and Daboll for? I don't know the specifics of I haven't looked into. I mean, I could only assume that the Daboll contract's going to be 5 years. It really doesn't matter. You could, based off the prior contracts, we've seen that you could get rid of these guys whenever you want. But obviously a longer contract, I guess, worries a fan base because it means that it's a stronger commitment if things aren't working out. Like the 7-year deal that Matt Rule got, for example. Had it been a 5-year deal, Carolina may have moved on from him already, based off the things you've heard out of Carolina. So I would assume it's a 5-year deal. Like the Giants in the past have only done 5-year deals with coaches. So I doubt it's more than that. Daboll got 5 years? Okay, so there you go. 5-year deal. Yeah. Do you think Malik Willis could fall to the second round? And if so, do we take him? Yes, I do think he could fall to. I'm not saying he definitely will, but he could. I mean, you look at any mock draft right now, that's where he's going. Almost, there's one here and there where he's going mid-first round. But the majority of mock drafts, if you look at, he's going in the second round. So yes, I do think he could fall to the second round. Whether or not we take him, I have no idea. Sub Chris, Joe Shane's children, Sydney and Carson, added me on Snap, and that's awesome, man. Wilbert says, who do I have to bribe to let Neil fall to 5? You probably have to bribe Jacksonville because they could certainly take him. They need help for Trevor Lawrence. And then after that, maybe Houston. If Evan Neal gets by Houston at 3, I think he's going to get to us at 5. I don't think the Jets are going to take another lineman. I could be wrong, though. But they've taken a lineman with each of their last 2 first-round picks. So I think if he gets by Houston, he'll probably get to us. But we'll see. I still think he's going to Jacksonville. And I haven't seen a ton of mocks with Jacksonville taking him. But I have to think, and maybe they'll look to trade down, but I have to think that Jacksonville has to be thinking about Trevor Lawrence. That has to be the primary focus. And if you get a left tackle, I think that's what they'll do. So I still think Evan Neal's going to Jacksonville. You got to give Evan Neal a gas mask and a bong. You don't think Jacksonville's taking Neal? Yeah, I mean, most people don't. Most people have them going edge. I don't know. I think in my mock, I'm going to have them taking Neal. I think I'm going to have them taking Neal. I know that that's going against the majority, but I think I'm going to have them taking Neal. The way we beat up Lawrence, they got to go O-line. I would go O-line. That's what I would do. I would look to trade down, though. If I could find a partner that wants to trade up to get Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau and drop to 3 and still get Neal, that'd be ideal. But what's up there, Ryu? Analysts have Ekwonu being the best tackle in the draft. Don't care if Neal don't fall to us. I like Ekwonu too. The NC State kid is who I want. You could keep Neal. I like Ekwonu too. Ekwonu's like my favorite player to watch in this draft. Max, what's up, man? What's your top 3 tables? What I think he meant tackles. Max. But right now, I mean, if you listen to anybody, the top 3, most people's top 3 tackles are going to be in no specific order: Neal, Ekwonu, and Cross. That's most people's top 3. Most people. Some people have differing opinions, but that's most people. And E. York, man, what's up, buddy? Trade suggestion. Trade number 5 to Tampa Bay for Tristan Wirfs. Tampa probably, no way. No way. I mean, I would love it. Hold on. Yeah, I would do that. Tristan Wirfs is a legit, he's a legit starting right tackle. So, yes, I would do it. But why would Tampa trade him? I don't see, like, he's already an all-pro tackle. He could probably get more than that. Like, the guy's 22, 23 years old. They're not going to trade Tristan Wirfs. Are we looking at another? What's up there, Word Man? Thanks for popping in, buddy. Are we looking at another 1-6 start next year? Fourth new offenses for Kid Danny. I mean, I got to see the schedule first, but probably Daniel. Probably. I'm not going to go into next year setting a high barometer in terms of the wins that I expect the New York Giants to get. Let's put it that way. If they win 10 games, great. I'm not expecting it. I'm like I've said since they made this change. I'm expecting a new rebuild. I'm expecting not to start completely from the bottom, but I think they're going to start shuffling out guys they don't want. They're going to start bringing in guys that they want. And I think it's going to be like a 3-year process before we hopefully get to where we want to be. But I'm not setting expectations sky high next year. I'm not thinking playoffs. If they make the playoffs, great. It could happen. You look at the Eagles this year, it could happen. But I'm not going to set those expectations. What's up, Mike? Mike says 17-0, man. I love it. I agree with that, Max. That's probably. I appreciate you being here, Daniel, man. Thank you. I agree with that, Max. I think that's where I'd probably have us. I mean, like if you strap me up on a lie detector right now, and again, this is before I know anything. This is before I know the players redraft, the free agents pickups, the other teams were playing draft picks at free agent pickups. I would probably have us right there, 6 or 7 wins. I've seen like a lot of Giants fans say like there's no way they could win more than 3 or 4. That I disagree with. Like this year, the Giants got like absolutely destroyed and decimated by injuries. Like, and I have to think that this coaching staff is going to be an improvement, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think it's crazy to think the Giants, especially like you said with the last place schedule, could win 6 or 7 games. I don't think that's crazy. That's probably what my expectations are going to be. 6, 7, in that ballpark. Chris, check Doug Rush on Twitter. Let me take a quick look. Doug Rush. Yeah, I already knew about that. If you're talking about the retweet about Edgar Bennett. Yeah, somebody pointed me to Dan Graziano's tweet earlier, which suggests obviously that Dorsey could very well be could be the New York Giants offensive coordinator. I'm just scanning through some of his other recent tweets. Former Q's football and Buffalo Bills head coach Doug Marrone on the move again. Looks like he got an NFL job. His old buddy Nate Hackett in Denver, maybe the Giants. Suggesting that he could potentially be the offensive line coach. Interesting. Let's see. Pencilman. Just remember, wherever Joe Judge goes, he will watch the tape. Well, that's every coach we've had before he comments on something that's important. That Ben McAdoo did the same thing. So did Shermer. What's up there? Give me, man. Thanks for popping in. Keep hiring all these guys for a bum quarter. Well, Tommy, and I know you're not a Jones guy, and I don't even think I'm a Jones guy. I don't hate him as much as you do. But I think that's like the disagreement I have with people. Like somebody else told me that Jones is going to now cost Daboll his job. I don't think they're hiring these guys for Daniel Jones. I think they're hiring these guys hoping they could improve Daniel Jones. But if Daniel Jones doesn't improve, I think they're hiring these guys to mold the next guy. So, like, I don't think Daniel Jones is going to have any effect on Brian Daboll's job at all. If Daniel Jones fails, if he doesn't have a significant jump, Brian Daboll's going to get his quarterback. I don't think it has any effect on Brian Daboll's job whatsoever. No, I'm not a Jones guy. I'm really not, Roldy. I laugh when people say, because I get it from both sides. I get it from both sides. I get fans that criticize me for hating Daniel Jones. When I made a video on Daniel Jones earlier this year, like 2 months ago, saying that Daniel Jones will not be the franchise quarterback for the New York Giants, people said, "Oh, well, you hated the pick. You just want him to fail." And then I get fans like you because I give them an opportunity to tell me that I love Daniel Jones. No, I'm giving him an opportunity. I don't love Daniel Jones. I've never loved Daniel Jones. I've never come out and called him Danny Dimes. I've never come out and propped him up as this incredible quarterback when the New York Giants drafted him. I simply wanted to give him an opportunity. I've never loved Daniel Jones. Wolves, man, thank you very much, man. Did Daboll get a free medium Pepsi as a perk? I think he got a free large. Jones says, is it bad that I want us to suck to get I don't want us to suck. But again, I'm not going to tell anybody that they're wrong for rooting for the team the way they want to root for the team if you feel like it's in the best long-term interest of the football team. But I don't want us to suck. I do think we need a quarterback, Royal Money. I just don't think we should draft one. I think we need an improvement at the backup. I just don't want us to. And when I say I don't want us to draft one, I don't want us to spend the top 7 pick on a quarterback. That's what I mean. I don't want to spend a first-round pick on a quarterback this year. But I do think we need a better backup. That I agree with. Matthew says you have neutral feelings towards Jones like me. Yeah, I think that's always been the way I've been with Jones. I've never been completely sold on Jones, and ever from the start, never. But I also am willing to give him an opportunity, and I also recognize that the guy was set up to fail. That's undeniable. He hasn't overcome it, but he was set up to fail. Let's see what we got here. How about this? Are keeping DJ to increase his value to flip him? No, I don't think that's what they're doing because maybe if they extend him on the 5th-year option, but I don't think they're going to do that because he's not under contract after this year. No, I think they're keeping Jones because they think it's not in the best interest this year to draft a quarterback. And they may legitimately see some good things in Jones. I believe that. Like I see some people in the chat. Of course he is blaming this, Rolly. Of course he is blaming this. I see some people in the chat saying that he has good raw physical attributes. And I agree with that. I do think he has some good raw physical attributes. So I don't think Shane and Daboll are lying when they say that they like parts of Daniel Jones's game. And maybe they feel, I can't speak for them, maybe they feel with their improved coaching, he could be a much improved quarterback. So I don't think they're lying. But I don't think they're lying. Super cool. Corporate says Chris is a Jones realist, not an extremist like most fans. I think that's accurate. I hope. Yeah, I think most people when it comes to, and it's not just with Jones, I think it's most quarterbacks are extreme one way or the other. I think there's extreme pro Jones fans, and I think there's extreme negative Jones fans. I don't think I fall in either category. I think that's fair. Let's see what we got here. If Malik Willis is open at number 36, are you taking him? Me personally, no. I won't cry if they do it, but no. I would not. I don't want to take quarterback in the first 2 rounds of this draft, preferably. Certainly not in the first. But no, me personally, I would not. I would rather take another lineman. I would rather take another edge. Me personally. VC's, I'm an extremely pro Jones fan. I believe in him too much. And listen, I respect that, VC. I respect that. I respect it, man. And I think all Giants fans, VC, should hope that you're right. whether they hate Jones or whether they're like me and they're like, like, I don't know. I think everybody should hope that you're right. Like, everybody should be rooting for Daniel Jones to be great. Let's see. Ryan says, what happens if Jones can't play because of his neck? What do you do? I think at that point you sign a stopgap. You sign a stopgap. I mean, you could draft a quarterback, but like I said earlier, I don't care what the quarterback situation is. I don't want to force a quarterback pick. So if Jones can't play, and I feel like it's not the best draft to draft a quarterback, I don't think my opinion would change on that. I wouldn't then be like, yeah, let's take a quarterback 5th or 7th. No, I think my opinion would be sign a stopgap. Sign whoever, a stopgap, a guy that could come in here and start for a year. Man the fort. Get you by until you draft your quarterback. That would be my mindset. Let's see. Reports are saying that Mara and Shane aren't concerned about his neck long term. I think he's going to play. I'm not worried about it. Easy Lopez, be good, man. Thank you so much for popping in. I'm going to end this in like 5 minutes. That's the thing that Mark says, Daboll just said on WFN, Jones is good to go. Jones is going to be the quarterback next year. I 100% believe that. DJ Smooth says, do you pay Daniel if he's like Burrow? Yes, 100%. Joe Burrow to me has already proven he's a top, 7, 6, 8? He's in the top 8. So yes, that's the level he would need to be for me to. And I'm not saying he needs to go all the way to the Super Bowl, but he needs to. If he was at a Joe Burrow level, I don't think twice. Yes, yes. Be good, Matthew. Go 24. That ain't happened, Fabian. If our pick was in the middle of round 1, it would be more realistic to take one of the quarterbacks, but none of them are worth taking inside the top 7. It would be Jones all over again. Yeah, yes, I agree with you. Because the other thing is, if we were picking at like 17, 18, more than likely we'd have a pretty decent roster. And you wouldn't have as big of a financial commitment either. It would be much easier to move on from him if he wasn't the answer. There, I think it makes more sense. Like where the Patriots took Mac Jones, like it makes sense. Because like if Mac Jones doesn't work out, Patriots, whatever. Okay, let's get another quarterback. If you take a quarterback top 5, you can't say that after 1 year, 2 years. Wilbert says, what deal you give him if he plays elite? I mean, the way the NFL works, Wilbert, if he plays elite, he's going to get a record-breaking contract. That's just the way it works because the salary cap goes up every year. That's why every time a elite quarterback signs a contract extension, they have the new record-breaking contract. So it would be a ridiculous contract, like what Carson Wentz got or what Jared Goff, I think, at one point was the highest-paid quarterback in football when the Rams signed him to an extension. I could be wrong on that. If he wasn't, he was certainly up there. So was Carson Wentz. So that's what you'd be looking at. Mark says, I think bringing Graham back is a bad idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. I know you don't like Graham. I don't think it's a bad idea. He's not my dream guy. If I could pick one, it'd be Fangio. But I don't think it's a bad idea. I think he's better than some Giants fans give him credit for in terms of being a defensive coordinator. He hasn't had much to work with. And they had a lot of injuries this year, and the offense hasn't helped him out at all on the defensive side of the ball. I do think he's a solid defensive coordinator, personally. But I prefer Fangio. Like, if you gave me the option, I'd prefer Fangio. Ben, but don't break is fine considering the roster we have. I agree. He didn't have much of a choice. We couldn't get after the quarterback without blitzing. Graham wasn't bad. He did his best. The only thing why we don't want Graham back is the soft shell cover 2 defense. It drove us nuts. Yeah, but I don't think he did it. I don't think he did it because he wanted to, at least as frequently as he did. I think he did it because he felt he had to. I think if he had more talent, specifically at the edge rusher, you would see a much more aggressive defense. Yeah, I mean, Trent, that's what happens when you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie salary, and they haven't gone out and spent a ton of money. I mean, you look at their high impact players; they're all homegrown players, specifically at the skill positions, right? Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, they're all homegrown players. I mean, yes and no, amazing guy, but nobody. We haven't drafted one first-round edge rusher. When's the last time we took a first-round edge rusher? Pierre-Paul, I think. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I think Pierre-Paul. So, like, we haven't taken an edge rusher that you would think would be a transcendent talent. They're not the favorite, Stanley. The Rams are the favorite. I think the Rams are a 4-point favorite. But guys, I am going to close this out. I just wanted to go live with you guys for a while. I've been live for over 3 hours now. Like I said, time flies. I try to answer as much as the chat as I can. I try to give everybody an opportunity to see that I at least talk to him for once. I appreciate all you guys. Lloyd says a job up from Michigan. Yeah, I mean, he's been mocked to us in a lot of these drafts, and he's got a lot of upside, and it's obviously an area of need. And we'll see. We'll see if that's the guy that we ultimately end up going with. I wouldn't be upset. You know, if they go tackle and edge, and then they go interior offensive line in the second, I'm on board with that for sure. I think that's probably where my head's at right now. But again, you're not going to be. I'll be very happy if we take 2 linemen as well with those top 2 picks. But be good, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. You guys are the best. And yeah, we'll talk soon. There's going to be something to talk about soon. I promise you. As always, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.